Yeah, well,
Go. Right. So, away we go. And operations and maintenance.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to bring up an item if I can, is that in the future, I know in the past when we had in the workshops, we never really had where we necessarily have a roll call or attendance, and I think we need to be doing that because this is actually a published meeting to the public, and I think we should treat it the same way as we do our 7 o'clock meetings.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Mayor, because of the content of the workshop has changed a little bit, can I rearrange the order of the discussion?
Just tonight, only for you to go on vacation.
So, Trailhead Master Plan, we want to make sure we have time to discuss that, and also the donation policy ordinance 168. RJ and Jen will follow, Jen and RJ will follow in that order if there's time. If there's not, they'll be included in my report.
Okay, so the Trailhead Master Plan will start with, correct?
Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I don't have a whiz-bang PowerPoint presentation for you tonight, but I'm prepared to update you a little bit. I think that the best, most exciting thing is that we have got an agreement out with Staples Golf to be the master plan consultant. And in your package, you should be able to see that. And I think if you're going to look at anything in that agreement, other than Sean has already looked at the legal aspects of it, the last 3 pages kind of outlines in detail what the plan is going forward. And there's a couple of reasons that we picked Staples Golf as a work group and want to recommend them to you for approval. Number one is they really understood the benefit of the bringing the whole community in, not just golfers, but the community. They really understood the concept of having a meeting or gathering area. They also understood the concept of inside out, outside type things. And so there's that. They really understood the community, how to keep community involved. And the other thing that when you looked at their proposal, they had probably, I would say 100 golf courses they worked on in various stages, including master plans. And so what I want to do here is I just have a couple slides to kind of give you a flavor of this is called Papago, and it's in Arizona, and it's a facility they just finished. And you look at that and you go, wow, that's pretty cool. So I just want to run through a few photos here and give you an idea of what could be. So that's, obviously that's their outside restaurant section from a different angle. You know, we talked quite a bit about, you know, having the, you know, where we could do weddings or other larger events, and that shows, hey, look, they understand that. This is actually inside at the bar. Again, bar. So you can get a feel for, you know, their style is bright and light and airy, and there's the pro shop. You know, like it's Chris Lazaruno. And then, so, is this a movie? Yeah. Okay, so what's really nice about this picture, I think, is just if you look around, you see kids, you see adults, you see golfers. I mean, the whole wide cross section of the community in that picture, and I think that's something that I've heard that we really want to enforce. And then, so I have just about a 10-second movie here, just give you more flavor.
Was this all hands-on research?
No, I wish. I think I should be benchmarked. Can you start that in the beginning? So the next step with them is, assuming that you approve the agreement tonight, is we'll get that signed, and they're ready to go to work. And the next step would be to do some kind of a design charrette. What that looks like, I don't know yet, but we're going to try to engage the community and the council as far as, hey, what do we want? And so now we have a consultant on board. I think we're ready to take those steps. So, any questions?
And you have this list that you're going to be giving to them of some of the conceptual things we have in mind?
Yes, that was part of the RFP process, so they know about it. But one thing we stressed, especially in the interview, was that it's your guys' decision and the community's decision, not ours. So those are just starting points. Yes.
So, great proposal. I read through it, obviously. There's the 5 tasks as deliverables. At what point are we going to be putting dates to those deliverables? And I know we have an end date at the end of February, but I was just curious as to what the timing was for each of those tasks.
We actually have a schedule that they submitted as part of their package, and I can share that with you.
Thanks.
Oh,
Yes, a couple questions. I did miss one of the meetings, so did you supply the city council with a list of everybody that put in a proposal?
Yes, we did. We had a PowerPoint last time where we actually went through it and some of the projects they had done.
Okay, all right. So you settled on just this organization?
We got down to 2 organizations through the grading system based on the RFP, and we got down to 2 organizations, and then we had interviews, had them come in and actually interview. Well, actually one came in person, and then the other one did a phone interview. Mm-hmm. And the Staples Golf, just they ran away with it in our opinion, and it was among the least with work, it was unanimous.
Sure. And I appreciate that. I was just wondering, since I did miss the meeting, did the city council as a whole echo the same feelings that that's the group they should go with?
I don't think the city council had enough detail at that meeting to really weigh in that way.
Okay.
But,
and so you believe that today we have that information that we need to either accept your recommendation or send you back to square one. So we really don't have much to choose from other than you like this company.
Well, I would say it was a work group. It was a work group of 7 people. And
that's great.
Yeah, and again, we're bringing it to you as a recommendation. If you don't like it, then we have the second one, which is Architects West out of Spokane, that we would be glad to bring them to join in. Yes. And we'll do all 5 if you want. I mean, and one thing I would really encourage is if anybody's really curious about the proposal, I do have the copies of the proposal that you can come and you're welcome to check it out and really see what they're all about.
Well, I'm not trying to be contrary, but you can bet I'm interested in the proposal.
Sure.
That's part of my job. So, just being given your selection, the committee selection, and saying run or stay, kind of puts me behind the 8 ball. Okay, because I have nothing else to compare it to other than itself. So I realize that you're up against the clock and all those good things, but I was just wondering, am I the only one that feels that way, or what do you all think about this?
Well, if I remember, Scott did go through some of the selection criteria during the last meeting when you were here, and how they narrowed it down to the last 2 that they were doing interviews with.
I think
repeat them at this point, but
I think they did a good job, a very detailed thought process of all of them, and I feel like this was the better one from the information we had.
I thought the team that was assembled was effective. It was a good group of people in terms of, I'd say, judgment and representation. And I've got good confidence in the ability of that group to make a decision.
I also was very comfortable with what I saw, because I think there was 3 or 4 that you showed some photos of things they had done and some of their expertise, and some of them that you talked about I think were into maybe larger projects, where this one is more in line for what we're probably looking at. So I was very comfortable with that.
Great. And I just wanted to say that, thank you. I didn't mean to waste your time, okay? But that's one of the reasons we have 7. So we get some good feedback. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
thanks, Scott.
So this is on, Mayor and Council, this is on your agenda tonight to award the contract. I believe it's $79,000. Is that correct?
Plus contingency.
Plus contingency. The budget for this was $100,000, and so it is an action item on your agenda tonight.
Yes. I was looking at one page on here, reimbursable expenses, outline reimbursable expenses. And did you anticipate any of those, or?
Yes, so it's 79,000 plus reimbursable expenses, which would include traveling, printing, mailing, those sorts of things. And so that's why the additional dollars in the contract. The one that's second, it's right here on. It's not right here. Oh yeah, so it's 99,500. So the difference is to allow for to compensate, so it's not to exceed that amount, and that would include the reimbursables and contingency.
Okay. Well, under reimbursable expenses, I see first-class air travel. And I fly coach. Southwest has no first-class sections, so I don't anticipate that. I will strike that out in the contract that we sign.
Mayor, what page are you on?
It's the last page.
Okay. Does it say first class air travel?
Yes. So I don't fly
I appreciate you
first class.
bringing that up.
Yeah, I did not catch that.
I saw it, but after my last statement, it's like, but yes.
Long distance telephone, who uses long distance anymore?
Yeah, this telephone. Who uses a telephone anymore?
I think it's just a standard language.
Okay, well, I just wanted to just double check. Anything else? Okay, we'll go forward then. We're done with that, right? So that takes us to 168. Is that what you want to do?
168. I don't think RJ does have anything to say. It's within our budget, so I don't, on the money part of
Expected calls.
the budget related to the master planning of Trailhead, it's any comments?
No, it's with the contract being $80,000, we still have $20,000 left of space.
No, we're at 99,000.
99, sorry.
It's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, up the contingency's up to 99.
Yes, sir.
So I don't have any concerns unless there's a lot of first class travel.
We also have local lodging.
The only other thing I do have for you is my question about timing. Right? Under consideration with everything that we have in the capital facilities plan that's taking place between the end of this year and the beginning of next year, do you find it appropriate to be looking for another capital outlay expense involving that particular situation, the golf cart itself? Or do you think that we may be putting ourselves ahead of our funding?
So, if I understand, it's more looking after the master plan is completed and the recommendations or results, the next steps after that. So we're looking beyond this process, right?
Yes, I agree with that, and it's the appropriate time to be looking at the final result, because you, the staff, nor the city council wants to get down the road and then say, well, why did you let us go all this way if you didn't think that was fun? So I'm just kind of shortcutting that. I'm asking you as the money guy, are we getting ahead of ourselves if they come back with whatever $1 million quote?
So,
you know what we have to spend on upcoming in next year.
I do know what I spent on the upcoming.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, there's the results that come back from this. They're going to have a few different things they're going to be looking at, a whole range of different costs, all the way, I think there's options all the way up to 10 million, all the way down to kind of more of a small $1 million item on that. Without that analysis, I don't know if it's in the $1 million to $2 million range. We would look at what we have in existing funds to see if the city council would want to move in a direction that says, so we use our ending fund balance that we have to support that. Do we use REIT in the future years because our REITs will be replenished? to help support that. If it's closer to $10 million range, we would have to talk about some kind of either councilmanic bond or voter bond financing.
Also, the master plan was funded for 2019. It's probably going to carry over to 2020 before we complete the work. But there is no commitment for the city to do a large or small project, nor has any decision been made on how that gets funded, because all those decisions come back to the council. The scope of the project, the expense of the project, the timing of the project. So right now what we want to do is do our due diligence to get the options out there with good estimates so that the council can make an informed decision. But there's no commitment at this time.
Beyond the master plan, we stop, we take a look and decide how we want to pursue it forward.
So there's nothing in our budget either for anything beyond the master plan.
Lisa?
Yes, if I may. The contract is looking at them doing 3 different scenarios for different levels of funding. So that will be part and parcel of what they help develop with your input and the input of the community. And then and then the ultimate decision, again, will be with City Council. And it would be something that we could fund again in the begin to fund it in the 2021 or capital program or whatever. Nothing is proposed for 2020 other than to get through this process, because it's going to take some planning beyond that.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. Are we taking into consideration that we're going to be using a proposal from 2019 and 20 for the dollars spent maybe in 21 or so?
We can be certain that they are future valuing those dollars.
Well, thank you. I think it's a good deal. I'm not against it at all. I just want the council to be aware that this is one step with many more to come that require us to do some serious thinking about our funding. Thank you.
Scott had to leave to go to Harvard Road, I believe, so that's why he walked out the door. The road is probably going to close in the next hour or two.
He's got to go through the Parker boy. Any other comments about the Trailhead Master Plan? So, not here. Okay, now we'll go forward to 168.
One question before we go, before we start. I think we had talked about figuring out which document we're going to start with and redlining it as we go. Is that still the plan?
Correct, and so you should have all received a copy. I think Ann put a stamp mark on the top right. So we are looking for feedback on this document. This is the document that Councilmember Langford brought to the workshop on September 3rd. And then I do have it, I read it through page cover to cover, so I have a couple questions too, but I don't want to, we want to hear from the council.
Okay. So who's going to lay this up, Katie, or what is this your?
So, yeah, it's all yours.
Let me just give you some background as to why it's in the form that it's in at this point. One, we're not talking about trees, okay? We've kind of consolidated what is actually involved with receiving donations, okay? So there's been a good amount of talk about the point of income through a donation that would be defined within the statute itself. Okay? I know that the figure of 5,000 has been bounced around with some considerable effort. On July 12th of this year, our attorney noted that there was a change to cash gifts and or donations that was recorded as $1,000. So those figures is what's up for this body, okay? just because I authored the legislation does not mean I think it's a superior document to what anybody else could come up to. Right? It is showing what a streamlined ordinance regarding donations can look like, the verbiage used, okay, which is appropriate for this body. And if anyone has some information that they'd like to add to this or to discuss something that's within the body of this would be the appropriate time to talk about it.
Any other comments, Chris?
Really, most of the things that I have are just more of a formatting issue, so I can take a look at those later.
Anytime you're ready,
Yeah.
you know, throw in your help would be appreciated.
Oh, well, if you want. So, section 1A, there's a word missing at the end of the paragraph, should be law.
State law.
Yeah. And then looking at, under section 2, we have types of donations, and then A, donations of cash, B, donations of real or personal property. It looks like to me, instead of C, D, and E, it should be 1, 2, and 3 as examples of real or personal property instead of separate letters.
You're on page 2, Chris?
Yeah, sorry, page 2 to 3. So
2 and
section 2B, and then instead of C, it would be B1 or just 1. D would be B2 or just 2, and E would be B3 or 3.
I see, you prefer the numbering system.
Well, because those C, D, and E seem to be subsections of donations or real personal property, so it just flows a little bit better, is all.
That's fine. Would you give me a second while I'm working on it?
Sure.
So starting with C, it would be,
One.
C would actually become 1, or would
Yeah.
be?
And that would be, yeah, if you're truly looking at formatting, it would be indented from B.
Okay, thank you. Is everybody comfortable with the policy regarding the naming rights? Is that something that everybody's agreed to? It's pretty much the same thing as the original shows.
I didn't see any issues with it.
Okay. There's no big changes to it. I was just wondering whether or not you wanted less involved, more involved with naming. Review anyway. I suppose that the final result would be in the review. So
I think
six and one half dozen of it.
I think we're looking at a project big enough that somebody's looking for naming rights, it's going to go through a process anyway, so it'll give us time to look at it.
Point 2. Very good. Is anyone else?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that since we've been working with this, thank you.
It should turn green. Unless the battery's dead.
There you go.
there we go.
Thank you. Since we've been working on this, I think there have been some benefits from working on it, and I think that one of those benefits is that I think that we've improved the communications between the staff and the council relative to these kinds of gifts. And it wasn't something we had to legislate. I think by just discussing it, I think we've improved communications, and I think it's a very positive thing. As you know, I really had no problem with the original ordinance, and didn't think we had to fix anything. But, you know, I'm open to approving anything that's going to be positive for the city, and I'm very interested in putting this to a vote to get it approved. Thank you.
Any comments?
If I'm right, Mr. Mayor, it would be my intent, if approved, that we put this on next meeting's docket for first read. And if nobody has any other objections to this at this point, I would like to do that. However, I would like to hear from the city administrator Administrator, you had some questions that you'd like to talk about.
So mostly clarification, and I can work directly with Councilmember Langford or go through all of it with you. So one of the questions I have is there's section 1 and section 2, but if you look on the top paragraph on page 2, it says section B. So I didn't know what section that was referring to. I want to make sure I understand what section B is. Is it section 2B?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So where the confusion is with me, and just, because we're going to follow whatever the policy is, but I want to make sure I understand what the policy is. So where I get confused is, it says that all donations will go back to council, and yet then there's thresholds. So I get confused between what comes back to council and what doesn't, as far as donations. And I'm not talking naming rights or cash, I'm just talking a donation of something. So where do I know what donations come back to the council?
Well, I think as we discussed a little bit at the last meeting, it was similar to what you guys are currently doing with just letting us know everything that's coming in. But then obviously with those threshold amounts, it might be a little bit deeper dive conversation. We'd also discuss similar to as we approve the expenses. That's when we start hearing about them.
But let me give you an example. So this weekend, we received, 8 medallions that are being installed. You probably see them around town. So those were donated by somebody. The value is probably close to $1,000. And so that is, it's not real property, I don't think. It's not cash. It's not a naming right. Would that be a donation that would come back to council because the value of that's roughly $1,000? So those would come back for council for approval. Okay, so where I got confused was under section 1 it talks about the mayor or staff will review the acceptability, which we did. Then in section 1, it was evaluation of the criteria, which we did. Section 1C, the donation will be designated as restricted or unrestricted. In this case, it was restricted because it was supposed to go in the sidewalk at certain locations. And then in section D, it says at the next regular scheduled council meeting, the staff will provide its recommendation consistent with section B. So that tells me that all donations are going to come back to council. That's what this tells me. So it doesn't matter what the dollar, unless I'm reading it wrong, it's not making a dollar threshold. It says we'll review it for this and that, and then we'll bring it back to council. So it doesn't say a dollar threshold. So I must be missing something.
No, I don't believe that you're missing much. The real property is something that the medallion would fall on. Secondly, not to belabor the point, but I, for one, never heard about a medallion coming to the city, much less installation into sidewalks. So that obviously would be one of the reasons that this would be brought before the city, if I may. So when we talk about the types of donations, what was done was that section 2A talks about donations of cash, okay, just cash. And my thinking behind it was, it's just as it says, to protect the donor, the city, which is its elected officials, employees, volunteers, or representatives, and the interests of the public. All cash gifts, regardless of the value, shall be referred to the city council. The donation will be marked as restricted and unrestricted. The staff will provide the recommendations to the city council. One of the reasons that I thought about this was hearkening back to a little bit of a different time and definitely a different city. But when you waive a donation of cash in front of an employee, and I'm not saying it would happen, not with our current employees, but there is a temptation. Cash is not a consumable to the point that it needs to be used right away because it has an expiration date. So therefore there's no rush in accepting. Okay? And that we say, yeah, we understand that because now the cash is coming in and it's our obligation and duty to acknowledge anything dealing with the budget, whether it's income or outgo expenses. So my thought was that any cash flow coming in, we should know about it, whether it's just 10, 15 bucks. If no other reasons, we can reach out and say thank you too. So that is the form for just cash. If we notice in what is now listed as Section B, donation to real property or
So
personal
section
property.
2B, under 2, then B.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll notice that the donations except for cash, which would be recognized by the general public as intended for immediate consumption.
Excuse me, I think you mean C.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
D is the benches.
I'm sorry, did I say D?
Yeah, I said D, so C.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
So
sorry.
C.
Bottom of page 2.
Yeah, section C. Now number 1, which would be recognized by the general public as intended for immediate consumption or use. Valued at or under 500 may be accepted by a supervisor and approved by the mayor or city administrator. Any donation under this section is to be brought before the city council. But here's what I thought would help ease the burden of having to note everything, is that at their next regularly scheduled city council meeting, under the city administrator's report to the council section, this would be just listed as an item.
Just for information only to let us know.
So that I understand, because I completely agree with the cash piece, and I don't think that we get cash donations very often, but I totally agree that those should all be brought forward to the council. So just so I understand is, so we received we received medallions that are being installed. They were donated to the city. Their value is approximately $1,000. So they would be included. So right now we've kind of kept a tally of all donations, and we've been giving it to you quarterly. It can certainly be monthly. And you're not asking to take a vote then. You're asking, because if it's in my report, it's not agendized. So I guess just for point of clarity, are you looking for an action where council will vote in the affirmative or not to accept a gift? Or are you asking me just to report out that there's been a donation, and that's the acknowledgement?
So
is it a formal action by the council? That's my question.
I would like to hear from the rest of the council on this matter. However, I do have an opinion. And the opinion is, I don't understand why we would even want to dangle a donation as either referred to the council or not. Seems to me we want to know about all of them, big and small, you know. So I'm not looking to differentiate between a big donation or a little donation, okay? It's a donation.
Right.
Now, it's not a consumable for this, okay? So it's just something that came in. As I researched, along with the information supplied by you, out of 39 times, or I'm sorry, out of a number of times, I believe it was, out of 39, there was only 4 or 5 that went up to...
There were over $500.
That
Yeah,
were over 500.
So we have 8. So there's a copy of the report we had last week.
So I don't see it as a stumbling block.
No,
I
I
think
don't
it's
either.
good for clarification and
Do you want it as a
Like it
motion?
raised.
I didn't know if you wanted an agenda bill with them so you could vote, or did you just want me to include it in my report? That's my question.
Mike?
What I'm comfortable with is that, and I'm basing quite a bit of this on what you've supplied us, Katie, which I really do appreciate, because you've done it over a period of 6 months. And I couldn't find the original 90 days, so I'm going on this one, where it was 39 and there was about 5 of them for over $500 on it. I'm comfortable with that $500 because what I envision is this, is that everything under $500, it's consumable. You're not coming to us for approval. All you're doing is coming to us at the next meeting saying, this is what we've accepted. Now, I personally would be comfortable to see that once a month. Because when I look at these items, I don't see the donuts and can of paint, this type of stuff needs to come to us at the next meeting. I'm very comfortable if it was
So we do this, for purposes of clarity, we do this once a month instead of quarterly, and that all the donations are noted, regardless of the value, and the ones that are over $500 or cash of any amount, those would come back to council for you to take action? That's
to
my
be
question.
presented at the same time.
Okay, so
at
then,
that next council meeting.
okay, so then, just so I understand, is do you want a written report, do you want an agenda bill, do you want a vote, or do you want me to just mention it in my report?
Well, it sounds like the ordinance is asking for our vote on
Yes.
anything over
Correct.
certain
Okay,
thresholds.
so we'll write an agenda bill, and it will be under general business for you guys to vote on accepting that donation. Okay, so now that I understand that, one other quick question. Under section 6, can I change the recreation department, since we don't have one, to operation and maintenance? Okay?
Sure.
So this information was taken directly from the original.
Correct.
Is this an opportunity to change this? And will we need to do that to other ordinances?
I suppose we could.
Or not? I'm just knowing that we're talking about.
I think we should just focus on this one, yeah, today. And then,
What do you want to call it?
operation and maintenance, because generally the donations are for parks, roads, and sidewalks.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
So we'll make those changes. We'll put it on November 5th for our first read, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Speaking of operations and maintenance, did you get any donations today?
I did not. Not this day. Although,
That's pretty
we
cool.
have a display for your pleasure. Okay, I'll do that in a moment. So I just have a few photos. Oops. Picture is worth 1,000 words, as Katie said today. I'll start out with the roundabout damage that happened about a week ago at Harvest Parkway Mission. Crews were out first thing cleaning up, getting the street swept and cleaned. It was opened right away for that morning traffic. And we're rounding up estimates right now. The only estimate we have right now is for the brick. We'll have to gather estimates for the concrete, landscaping, and whatever other damages we end up discovering. So it's going to be a process. You probably won't see it actually repaired until spring. It's getting too late in the season for brick and concrete repairs. So we'll just keep it clean as best as we can for now. Are there any questions on that? Yeah.
Part of clarification, in our last meeting when we talked about this, one thing I brought up is that, maybe do we need additional reflectors, maybe on the bricks or something like that. But I had a citizen come to me last Saturday, farmer's market, and say, well, you made a comment, but isn't there already some reflectors there? And I said, yes, there is, the same as at the other roundabout that shows go this direction on it. But my recommendation would be is for us to consider putting something directly on the bricks, because it's at that particular
that's a great question. We had that discussion with Sergeant Morgan, actually, in quite lengthy discussion on some possible solutions to help get it more visible. Everything on it is the way it's supposed to be. It's got the signage, the reflective signage, the arrows. We've got lighting on the sides of the street coming up to the roundabout. So we're shooting around some different ideas to bring it into a little more visibility. But when you have an impaired driver, you can probably light it up to the sunshine of the day.
This person that approached me on that was saying that how devastating it was, and this individual unfortunately lost his life, and it really is. I don't think anybody would say that that's not very unfortunate. But I relayed to this individual, I said, I could see it happening. It's a straightaway. If an individual is going too fast, not paying attention, I've made this mistake, or suddenly I look down and I'm adjusting the radio. And I think it's only a few seconds. And if I'm going 70 miles an hour or whatever it is on that speed, you can say, how many feet can I travel in a few seconds? We're not paying attention. So that's unfortunate. But I explained to this individual that what this council will absolutely, the city will do, is do everything we can to make it as safe as possible for the
absolutely.
citizens. That is our priority.
Absolutely. And driver awareness is a huge part of that factor. Right. It's 35 through there. I believe 35. Again, it's well lit up to the roundabout. We have proper signs. We are researching further lighting or markings on the roundabout itself to make it more visible. So just know that we are working on it.
And I drove over there at night to look at it again, and there is lighting around that roundabout.
I know this is sort of obviously a sensitive subject, given the person who did the damage is deceased. How do we go back for reimbursement for that?
Yes,
hair cost?
Yeah. It's a long process. So right now we're in the very beginning stage where our staff is cleaning up and collecting all of the quote data. That'll probably go till spring because we won't have final numbers until spring. We're working with PD and we're working with RJ on filing a report, and then we file a claim with our insurance company. So yeah, it's a long process. It's the trio of the three of us getting all of our information tied together so that we can submit a claim and get it covered. But it will probably be some time, would be my guess. And it will not be cheap, so there's significant damage out there. So, thanks. Any other questions?
The other question I would have is, we know that we're going to make a claim and so forth. It still has to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the process?
Well, we're moving forward with any repairs and cleanup we can. Cleanup has already happened. Repairs we likely aren't going to touch until spring.
Just because of the weather?
Yeah, we need that weather to set the concrete, to set the mortar for the brick. And it was at the recommendation of the first quote we received was from the brick contractor, and they recommended waiting until spring.
Okay.
So.
Gonna put a big Band-Aid around that?
Yeah, I wish.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Put a big ribbon around it. It'll be fine for Christmas.
You know, the best we can do is just clean it up and keep it as neat and tidy as possible. And
Bob?
Does the driver have any liability insurance?
I do not have that information right now. I don't know.
We're collecting that information as it speaks.
Yes, sir. First of all, I wanted to thank Sergeant Morgan. You and did a great job on that. I'm sorry we had to make those kind of notifications, but thank you for the good work. Secondly, just a suggestion. One of the things that is possible to do to alert drivers would be to put the bump systems in the roadway that kind of shakes your front end when you ride over them. And it gets your attention that you're about to either drive off the edge of the road or you're approaching something that requires extra attention. And I just thought maybe it would help, maybe it won't, depending on expense.
That's a good recommendation.
Okay, moving on. We have a couple of Eagle Scout projects going on right now. One is Tyler Baker is doing a project. He's midway through at the baseball field light pole. We've installed some lighting, and he is going to do a baseball-themed red and white flower bed garden around the pole. It kind of sits out there in the middle of all the grass, and all you see is the flag, but now we're going to emphasize that flag and that flag pole, and he's going to make it look really sharp. So I'll get some pictures when it's finalized. The other project going on right now is Carson Henderson Eagle Scout project, and he is in the middle of putting his artistic touches on our skate park. He started that, I believe, 2 weekends ago, and it's ongoing for another weekend or two, but it's very different, and it pops, and it looks really sharp. I think that was since I've been here, my first artistic Eagle Scout project. So that was really cool to see a little different project.
That's cool.
Yeah. Just a little update on pruning. At the library and police department, we have some pruning done there. Not really a big deal, but it's kind of nice. We're trying to aim for openness. I know the chief has emphasized wanting to be able to see through the canopies. It really made the police department and the library disappear. So we've lifted the canopies, cleared out brush, and we will continue doing so over the years to really be able to see through that for security and safety purposes. A little progress going on at staff has fondly renamed Orchard Park Pavilion, and I'm curious what you all think if we rename it the Depot. That's cool. Suggested by one of my fellow coworkers. It gets confusing saying pavilion. Okay, which pavilion are you referring to? So Orchard Park Depot seems kind of suited. And Anita, what did you say a depot is? What's the history of a depot?
Well, a depot is somewhere where families gather to either welcome someone home or to send their loved ones off.
So I thought that was only fitting. We have our latest wrap installation at Applewhite and Moulter. In case you haven't seen it, artist Debbie McCauley. What was the name? Is this Riding the Rainbow? Riding the Rainbow. It turned out gorgeous. It is the most drab corner, I think, probably in all of Liberty Lake. And man, those colors stand out. It looks fantastic. What's that?
Was this a donation?
Yeah. Yes. STCU sponsored let's see, all of our signal box wraps. Yeah, yeah, and they have their little logo down on the bottom. I am going to invite Anita to come up and share a little update on the volunteer program. She's going to be very brief.
Takes longer to walk up here, doesn't it? So the Fall Citizen program that we have right now, we have 18 members that have volunteered for that program. So far, we're very thankful for that. And it's kind of interesting because we've had snow before we had the leaves fall. So we do have 18 people ready to help anybody with leaves. They are starting to fall now. So you can go to our website to make a request, or you can go on our Facebook page and join the group to help anybody that needs their leaves picked up. So we're going to try to do that. And the actual pickup date for the city is November 9th for leaf pickup.
Quick question while you're there, Anita.
Yes.
So I was out this weekend and I came upon a house where on the door there's a note that says meals, come on in. So I talked to the neighbor, I said, because obviously I thought of this program. I said, you know, is this person housebound? What's going on? Does she need any help with these kind of things? It sounds like the neighbors kind of take care of her, but maybe we could think about reaching out to Meals on Wheels and seeing if there's anybody in the community who may not be hooked up electronically to find out about this group.
I think we possibly could. What we're trying to do with this program is the city is basically just coordinating volunteers. It's up to the volunteers how much time they want to donate,
right.
And if they want to, like with snow removal, we've had 3 requests already. So it's not like a all-time thing, but we could certainly maybe look into
Meals
that.
on Wheels know it's there, and they can at least just pass
Exactly.
the information on.
Yeah, and that brings up another point that I should have said. If everybody could please share this on their Facebook page, or just with your neighbors and that, if you have people that are handicapped or disabled, elderly, sick, that need help for any seasonal stuff in their yards, that's what this program is for. So if everybody can help us get up the word out, the better it is.
And in that suggestion, Anita, are you asking us to direct individuals to our website?
Yes, to our website to
Right.
request it, yep. And then they can go to the Facebook page if they want to actually help. But we have 18 people. We had 4 last year for snow removal, so it's really fabulous that we have that many people to help.
Do I give you my address now or later on?
You can put in your request on our website.
Anita, thank you.
He just volunteered, that's right. That was a volunteer.
Well, I'm already doing 4 of our neighbors that can't get
Mike,
out.
if you're volunteering, you can come to my house.
No, you're too far away.
Okay, moving on so RJ can have his moment in this time. We have our snow focus.
Can we have some questions, if we have any questions,
Sure.
or you just gave us the presentation? I know we have our programs with Parks and Art, such as the Boy Scouts doing their program and that type of stuff. They're aware of that this is being done. That's part of the thing I would like to make sure that the council is advised when this stuff is coming up. For example, I drove by and saw something was going on there, but I didn't want to go over without knowing what was going on and say, what are you doing? So the benefit is, if we're aware of that, we can be proactive. Me going for myself going over and say, hey, I love what you're doing, this is outstanding.
Okay, so I generally update you either midway through the project or at the end. Would you like me to update you in the beginning?
We did.
Okay.
I use examples that I'm embarrassed to say this because either I wasn't paying attention, but Macaulay is absolutely one of my favorite artists. She is just absolutely outstanding. I drove by and saw that. 1, I was ecstatic. 2, I was embarrassed because I just recently having some wine with her and she was doing this and I didn't even know that. So I really kind of felt kind of foolish. That if I had known it, I could have said, hey, I love what you're doing. It's a great idea. So that's a benefit if we know at the start of it. Thank you.
Yep. Snowplow flyer is going to be heading your way in hopefully the next week. A very interesting tidbit of information that we saw this year. We've been doing, this will be our 3rd year. And when he sent me numbers of mailable addresses, I thought, I wonder what it was when we first started in 2017. So I thought I'd share with you the mailable addresses and how much they've grown since 2017. So those are homes, businesses, mobile homes, trailers, and apartments. Pretty interesting increase in mailable addresses over 3 years. I thought that was fairly impressive.
Do we know offhand how many actual residents we have in the city? I know that number offhand.
11,000.
11,000?
11,000 exactly.
So we have one person per house, gives our 11,000 population?
That's what business is. No, it's 11,000.
11,000? Very good, thank you.
As of March of this year.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
It's a neat number.
Yeah,
Trend.
it's interesting.
Uh-huh.
And there's
It
a
is.
trend there for sure.
Yeah.
So I'll share that with you.
50%.
Winter Glow is on your agenda tonight for your decision. I mentioned it at the last meeting, and there are a few pictures to familiarize you in case you weren't quite sure what it was. This might trigger your memory. The bottom right and the top right photos are the display when they had them at Sacred Heart Children's Hospital, I believe the last couple of years. And prior to that, it was at Riverfront Park. It's very well known in the community. They are a nonprofit organization, all volunteer-based. They operate under, basically their overhead is operating in storage expenses only. It's all done through donations and volunteers. So this is what is on your agenda tonight. I wanted to ask if there are any questions. I do have the group here, or if there are questions later on this evening, they will be here. They're gonna hang through the meeting tonight to see if they can be of any assistance in answering questions. I wanted you to know that after our last meeting and the questions that came up, I did confer with Sergeant Morgan on the public safety questions and possible traffic issues and concerns. We've got that handled, and we've got plans for that. I've met with or spoken with Avista. They are and have been strong supporters of Winter Glow in the past, and they are willing to support us any way they can. They are working with us on logistics if we need to, of where we can place in the park because they have their transmission lines, what we can plug into, what we can't. So they've been very supportive, as well as City of Spokane. I've done some research with them on their experiences with the group. So it's a well investigated event on staff end, but from here forward it'll be up to the council to approve or ask questions or provide us with feedback.
Does Avista put up a temp meter?
They can, yes, that is an option that Melanie.
And that would
Melanie
allow, I don't know how much electricity you guys use, but.
Go ahead.
The problem with the temp meter is you have a very big park. And with a temp meter, that means it comes out of one central area. So you're going to be running big extension cords, hundreds and hundreds of feet to get into different areas. And crossing the sidewalks will be our toughest deal because we need to keep the power up when we go across it so the city can plow and maintain the sidewalk.
So we have the bollards along the paths, which have the outlet. Yeah, thank you. In them, so we'll tap into those.
The question is, are those not each one metered separately, but as a group? I mean, is Orchard Park metered?
On 1 meter.
On 1 meter?
Yes.
Then we can just utilize that.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So you want to use all the...
We want to use your infrastructure that you have there available.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Correct.
But we can capture the beginning and the end and maybe Vista being that power bill.
Oh yeah, when we were at Riverfront Park for 44 days and we were running basic line incandescents, our power bills were about $600 for the 44 days.
Okay.
And now we're LED, so I'll be really shocked if it takes half of that.
Okay. Good. Well, 300 is 300.
Yeah, 300.
So how many different,
Over
that's the right
250.
word, about how many
Over 250.
individual displays? That's going to be good.
Wow.
I think it's going to be good.
2 questions. Have we had thorough thought about what time these would shut down?
So, yes, we have an idea of many things that will facilitate this. We haven't gotten any detailed planning done because we're waiting on tonight.
Okay.
We didn't want to have, there's no sense in detailed planning if it didn't.
Absolutely.
The idea is to, number one, work with the neighboring homeowners and get a feel for what, what their expectations are and what that, kind of bounce it off to them. But we will have the capacity, the recommendation will be to keep it lit all night. We thought about that, will homeowners want that? Possibly not. However, it does deter vandalism. If you keep them lit all night, it's a huge vandalism deterrent. The second you shut them off, you tend to invite vandalism. So there are a lot of things that we have to weigh. There are a lot of details that if this passes tonight, we will be starting tomorrow morning meeting and getting this put together to every little detail.
And then the second question, if this does pass, something I'm sure Sergeant has thought about, but just in a lot of detail on where parking is going to be allowed, where it's not, especially on Harvest Parkway heading southbound.
Yeah.
Because for a fire truck to get through there,
Yeah.
if you have parking, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, the goal would be working with CB and using Silker.
Perfect.
But yeah, we'll have lots of signage up. We can light the signage, for the evenings. So. Yes.
I know Tom Sahlberg, who's both on Planning Commission and Parks and Arts. I know he's had some conversations already with some of his neighbors that back up to the park. So I think he's prepared to. Unless he did yesterday already, I missed the online Parks and Arts meeting, but he has talked to some of those residents already.
And if this passes tonight, the setup would begin the week before Thanksgiving?
Saturday the 16th.
Saturday the 16th and run through the first week of January. Teardown would begin, is that correct?
Saturday begins on the 16th, and the 24th is the tentative lighting ceremony, which is the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And then it will be shut down on Thursday morning, January 2nd this year.
So it's a good long run for the cost.
Is there, I'm sorry.
Couple questions. One, who takes care of the liability of damage?
So we will work with them, and they will supply us with insurance, and naming the city as an additional insurer, just like any event.
Okay.
The damages and repairs will all be on the volunteers.
So what are you saying damages and repairs, on infrastructure
Maintenance.
or on?
Maintenance.
Maintenance
on our lights or us?
Yeah, this guy here gets busted. You guys take care of that.
That's us.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
us.
Very good. My other question then is this. How many displays did you say earlier?
250 displays, roughly.
250? What we're looking at here, is it something like this that we're going to see? Is that roughly
Yes.
200 and some odd displays?
Yeah, you won't see the big, in the top right corner, you won't see the big trees. But
Right.
you'll see we got
The bottom right.
50 of those small snowmen. Well, kind of the countdown, we've got 4 25-foot super mega trees is what we call them, with 80 strands of lights on them. A dozen 12-foot tall Christmas trees. We've got about 150 5- and 7-foot Christmas trees. We've got about 50 of the small snowmen, plus we got 3 larger snowmen.
Okay.
And and then we have a bunch of 2D displays also.
Jen and I talked about this a little bit, and it's more for the council to think about. We don't need to make a decision tonight by any means. But there's a group that got started up called Business Networking Group, Liberty Lake Business Networking Group. And there's a lot of local businesses that are participating within this group. And one of the things that was brought up as a potential idea for the opening day of this, at their expense, the businesses, if they're able to get a large enclosed tent to have booths for their businesses to get the word out, because it's going to be so well attended, I can only imagine, to get recognition for these businesses that want to participate in it, to let people know what they do, things like that, similar to what we do at Barefoot in the Park. And they could help provide some of the hot ciders, things like that.
A warming tent.
Warming tent, exactly. And it would be a nice area for local businesses to get some ability to get their names out there as well. And I know a lot of them that were participating were interested in doing that.
Okay, real quick, I'll finish. Upcoming events, Maryland's Walk is Saturday, and the leaf pickup that Anita mentioned is November 9th. I asked my crew to send photos today. So a lot of the photos you saw earlier in the presentation are from my staff in the field as they this is what our custodian sent me, and I couldn't resist because he's sort of one of the forgotten in the night, you know, never seen. So as a joke, he sent that, and I said, I'm going to share that. So just a little humor. And last but not least, our Kenai and his pack said goodbye today, or yesterday. And if you look really closely, I think one of them's packed his suitcase and is ready.
This is not the employee of the month.
Yes, it is. That's all I have. Are there any questions? I just took up all RJ's time.
Great. Good job. Sorry, this was more interesting.
We'll roll into RJ later. Okay. So just 2 minutes and then we're going to come back. Before you, any additions, corrections?
Mayor, move the agenda.
Second.
Moving to second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. For citizen comments. So I have a couple. Mark, where's Mark? Here's number one on that.
My name is Mark Saba. I live on 1221 North Malvern. And I was fortunate enough to attend last week's candidate forum. And I just wanted to, for you that did not attend it, I was blown away. The job, the Splash, the Chase Youth Commission did an outstanding job. I mean, their questions were very, very professional and to the point. And then as for the candidates themselves, I was impressed. They handled themselves very professionally, and there was no mudslinging. It was very positive. They told us what we wanted to hear, and that was their issues and what they would make our city a lot better. And I just wanted to bring that out to everyone, that, hey, whoever, all these people that are running for office this time around, they're all doing a great job, you know, campaigning and doing an outstanding job, just to let us be informed of, you know, giving everyone a good chance to make a good decision. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Mark. Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, audience, and city staff. My name is Holly Woodruff. I live on North Fairway Road, just down the street from Liberty Lake Elementary School. I was fortunate enough to be at the Parks and Arts meeting where they made the original presentation on the winter globe. Spectacular. I think it's spectacular. I've been to the other meetings where they've been discussing a lot of the questions that you all have had. I think this would be a great opportunity to showcase Orchard Park and the River District. I can see this leading into a winter festival of some sort, kind of like Barefoot in the Park in the summer. We spend about this amount of money on 20 minutes worth of fireworks for 4th of July, which I love. I live right down the street from it, so I can just walk up there and enjoy it and walk home. This would give us 40 days of really family entertainment. We could go multiple times. So I want to support that. I've also told Parks and Arts that I'd be happy to volunteer to help put it up. So, assuming I don't have jury duty, because I'm on jury duty those 2 weeks. Or fortunate. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. James, I have you for number 12. And if you want to speak now, that's great too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, citizens. James Alexander, Legacy Ridge. Wanted to make a couple of comments about the code amendments. First of all, Lisa's done a fantastic job. I don't know if you've all taken the time to read it. I've tried it twice at least. There's a lot there. First one is the 60% lot coverage. I would go with the City Planning Commission and say no on that one. That's my preference. Whether people have opinions. And then the electronic monument sign. Is it possible that we could allow those computer type displays at some of the businesses? This amendment talks only about public lands. There's a new business that just went in over there by the pizza place, Mexico Window. 3 businesses have failed in that location previously. It's very difficult to see what's over there. So if there could be improved signage, that might help. For all of the business owners I've talked to in town, signage is number 1 problem, parking is number 2. So if we could amend the ordinances as written to allow it on commercial property, that would be one. The other would be, can we have something on the city sign down here that talks about welcome new businesses? So all of our new businesses in town are small businesses. Maybe you could have the business of the month or something, so we're not discriminating. Something to help them out, because I don't want to see a 4th business fail in that same location.
Great comments, James. Any other citizen comments? You don't have to have a yellow sheet right now. You can just jump right up. Huh?
How's it going? Sorry I'm late. For those of you, I think I met everybody on the council, but my name's Colin Tracy. I am the, I just wanted to introduce myself, just for everyone's awareness. For everyone's awareness. My name's, like I said, Colin Tracy. I am the Strategic Initiatives Manager for the Chamber of, Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. Just wanted you guys to see who I am, and I'm going to be working with you here in the near future. Also wanted to make sure everyone's aware of 2 opportunities that the Chamber offers, and I think I emailed everybody, but just so to reiterate it, we have the Government Action Committee that meets once a month, as well as the Transportation Committee. Those are 2 great opportunities to kind of know a little bit about what the region's doing, what the Chamber's focusing on. Like, for instance, right now, I know that we had Councilman Dunn and Councilman Kennedy were at the last one. We discussed kind of our 2020 legislative agenda and the different priorities that our area is facing that we want to focus on. And just encourage all of you to pop in every once in a while and kind of just see what's going on. And with that, that's all I want to say, and thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Question. I can ask Colin?
Yeah.
Colin, would it be, it's okay. Would it be possible that you could put the council, all the elected officials, on a mailing list, so every time one of those meetings are coming up, you could give it to us in advance?
Yeah.
Let us know what's there in the time and like that.
Absolutely. I can do that for both of those committees and make sure that you're all on the newsletter as well.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments? Not hearing, we're going to go forward. You know, I have Mickey Harness. You know, Mickey was the mayor of Rockford, right?
That's correct.
A few years ago, and one of our used police cars ended up in Rockford with a light bar on it.
Yeah.
I think she put a dummy in it, and it's really slowed the traffic down in Rockford. So.
And we still have the car.
We still have the car.
Just take the light bar off though.
Oh, upgraded.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey, for coming.
Yes, my name is Mickey Harnois, and I'm a council member now with the town of Rockford, located 25 minutes south of here on Highway 27, for those that don't know. I am on the Association of Washington Cities Board of Directors, and the association makes up, is made up of all the 281 towns and cities in the state. And it's what we all use as our tools as elected officials. I represent District 1, which is in the northeast part of the state. So tonight I'm here for a special moment. When we become council members and you become a member of AWC, every time that you attend a conference meeting, you get credits. And the idea is that, and you don't have to do anything. You walk in, you have a barcode on your name tag, and that's it. And they scan, and all of a sudden you come back, you look up your credits, and you've got credits and didn't sign up. It's just automatic, which is very helpful for a lot of us that don't like to keep track of things. But, and it does give the ability, the credits do, and the, it's toward the certificate advanced certificate of municipal leadership is what I'm giving tonight. And a certificate for elected officials who have gone through different meetings and conferences and gained the knowledge in different fields such as leadership, community development, and just advancing their knowledge as an elected official so they become even more beneficial to you in the community. So tonight, this award that I'm giving tonight acknowledges the continued commitment to one of our council members here as far as education and community service through additional trainings and leadership roles. And this award tonight was going to be given to Christella Kaminskas. And one of the things that I noticed on looking up her credits, she has done several online classes, which makes it a lot easier too if you don't want to physically go out and attend some of the meetings. So I give her kudos for doing that because I don't even do that. So anyway, so tonight on behalf, oh, and I do want to say, this is an advanced certificate, and we also have Mayor Peterson is also advanced, and Councilmember Langford also have the advanced certificate. So tonight we'd like to acknowledge and congratulate Councilmember Christella Kaminskas for achieving this, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, I congratulate you for this.
Okay, thanks, Mickey.
Thank you.
You're free to move about the country. Where's Sergeant Morgan, Acting Police Chief Morgan?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, it gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce the newest member of the Liberty Lake Police Department. Derek Arnold was born and raised in Springfield, Oregon, and after high school he joined the Army, which I thought was outstanding. Spent 9 years in the Army and was an infantryman, had 2 different tours in Iraq. After his Army stay, he decided to go and get out and join the King County Police Department. Well, just prior to getting out of the Army, he met his wife Aaliyah, and then he joined the King County Sheriff's Department, where he spent some time in Kenmore and also spending some time in Sammamish, however you pronounce that. Sammamish, have I got that right? Sammamish. There we go. Thank you very much. All right. And he married his wife in 2014, and their son Bennett arrived in 2017, and they decided to leave Seattle area and come over here to just have a better quality of life. So without further ado, Derek Arnold, come and recite the oath of office, please. Stand right here in front of me. Raise your right hand. Repeat the oath.
I, Derek Arnold, do solemnly swear that as a police officer for the City of Liberty Lake, I will faithfully execute the duties and responsibilities in such a manner as to serve and protect the citizens of Liberty Lake, that I will impartially enforce the laws and ordinances of the City of Liberty Lake, County of Spokane, and the State of Washington, and I will diligently uphold the Constitution of the United States, so help me God.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. His wife Leah will now pin on his badge for him. I asked to make sure she got blood wigs in there, so we'll see how that works. And Derek, if you'd like to say a few words.
Well, first off, I just want to thank everybody here. I appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to serving you guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you to my family. I love you all. That's really all I got today.
So this is the opportunity for us tonight to deliver the mayor's budget to council and to our community. And we're glad that the seats are almost all full. A lot of thought goes into preparing a budget. You know, this is, I think I did a count tonight, it was like my 18th one. In 2001 we did 3 of them actually, so back in the day. But you know, the budget isn't just crafted overnight. Actually, we began thinking about our budget in May, probably April, and start to move forward and trying to make sure how we're going to deliver services in the most cost-efficient manner, most effective manner, and deliver those needed services at a time that that fits within our cash flow. And so, working for the just from my perspective, working for the residents of Liberty Lake over the last 8 years has been extremely rewarding. And the city council and I appreciate the positive comments we receive almost on a daily basis. We've worked hard to maintain our facilities, trails, parks, open space, while planning for and addressing the transportation needs of our community. I want to recap 2019. The local economy was strong and revenues were tracked ahead of projections. We had strong building permits, expenditures and service delivery models were scrutinized for improved efficiency. Long-term debt. That's a debt that, you know, when you buy real estate like your house and so forth. At the end of November, we'll stand at $80,760 for the 6.4 acres in town squares. This note is scheduled to pay off in June of 2020. At that time, Liberty Lake will have acquired over $15 million in real estate and stand debt-free for all of our assets. That's pretty impressive for our community. At the same time, our cash balances, we carry on the north side in the tip about $12 million. In our general fund, we carry about $5 to $6 million in cash. And we carry $1.2 to $1.5 million in restricted reserve funds. So the health of our community, the financial health, if you had a bond rating to say AAA+++, you'd be identifying Liberty Lake. One of our projects, as in our capital facilities plan, is the north-south connection with Henry Road. Over the last 3 months, we've been able to secure all the right-of-way for the Henry Road overpass. That was a daunting task. We've been able to hammer out an agreement with Watchdog for the building of the bridges and with the county. We'll put in a new Harvard Road is almost well designed. One lane north bound lane in the section that is secures to I-90. And Barker Roundabout is in the plan, and it is being constructed by Watchdog, but it'll be the responsibility of Spokane Valley in January. Snow removal by our street department. We heard about that kind of during our workshop. You know, we're able to respond effectively and immediately to the snow problem, to the snow issue, to the snow warning on our postcards so that people know when their streets are going to be plowed. So we have that command and control. And whether it's winter in December or in this year's case, February, we were able to, in September, we were able to respond. I ran into a lady one time here just last month and asked her when she moved to Liberty Lake, it was 8 weeks ago. Oh, where'd you come from in Las Vegas? Why'd you move here, for the Four Seasons? She says, I really love the Four Seasons, I just didn't expect them in 1 month. The community and messaging board that we have out here is terrific, and we've also started to partner with Spokane Central Valley School District to utilize the Selkirk messaging board and the grade school messaging boards. Library programs and services in high demand. Jocelyn Riddell's leadership. We have almost completed a library needs study and expect to have delivered in December. In this budget, we're looking at advancing more funds for the library needs study implementation in 2020, based on the amount of money that the library will start to receive 2 years from now, when the TIF over on the north side expires. Our police department, we just had a swearing in of our, I think it was our 13th police officer, right? You know, so we're fully staffed. We have a great crew, and the 2020 budget includes a position for an additional police officer going forward in 2021. Our 6-year capital facility plan is complete, and our commitment in 2020 is $7,189,000. That's a significant commitment in capital, largely driven by Henry and Hunter. In coming years, it will fall upon the city to provide more resources for transportation improvements than in the past. And we must ensure that these funds are brought forward. And we're working diligently with both Watchdog and the Transportation Improvement Board to bring funds to put in local streets, sidewalks, and our overpasses. This year's capital facilities plan is $5.55 million just in roads. Pretty impressive. Talked about the message board. Some of you may have heard tonight the previous discussion, but we are on board with a master plan for Trillium, and we're trying to define or identify the other opportunities for improvement and design on that facility. In 2020, we're going to upgrade the irrigation system in Pavilion Park. So we changed the pumps and got all that, got the water coming, but Pavilion Park is due to an upgrade there. I heard a little discussion about the Parks and Arts Commission, some of the pictures. But Parks and Arts Commission is funded based on their 5-year projection for the 2020 budget. Jen's crew, operations and maintenance. Services are provided by this department include day-to-day operation of parks, facilities, fleet service, streets, events, and programs. Snow and ice removal, road repairs, maintenance, and stormwater issues. Jennifer has, how many people do we have working for you now? 40-some, 47?
We had about 40 at max.
40 at max. So she's in charge of all of that. And, I mean, if you look at here's a recap of 2019, outstanding. And then going forward, we're planning to ensure that she has the resources to deliver that. Our revenues in the budget are conservative projections. Our expenditures are disciplined. Our focus, I think, this year is going to be on pedestrian safety, irrigation improvements, transportation improvements, improved citizen engagement we heard about, and finally, implementation of our employee compensation and city benefit package. We spent the last summer looking out for our employees and preparing for this next year. And how, again, with limited resources, how you structure your finances to make those salary payments and to make those benefit payments. And this year, we came up with, I think, a terrific insurance program for them. And a little jump in their salary statute. In the budget, for revenue, we forecast our new waste management contract dollars we picked up a couple of years ago, a 1% growth in our property tax levy, the valuation growth in our community, a corresponding increase in the utility tax funds that comes with growth, new grant funding through the capital projects and permitting process, and harbor road mitigation fees. Our government is proactive in ensuring our sustainable, that we're sustainable now and in the future. And we see our as we see our costs increasing about 2 to 3% a year. Finally, Bob Moore 2 years ago talked about our strategic plan. We didn't take it lightly. Our budget talks on a vibrant economy, progressive building environment, safe, active, engaged community, sustainable resources, quality facilities and infrastructure. This budget is based on this strategic plan. I would like to thank the council for their efforts in working through the issues, the opportunities, and the challenges that face this city. I'd also like to thank our employees, Katie, team leader, RJ, our finance guy, Jennifer, Lisa Key, Chief Adlis, who's on vacation, who's in for his Sergeant Morgan, Jocelyn Rydell, Scott Bernard, and all the staff that have worked diligently to provide those services that the city demands. This city has unity in leadership and in vision to provide a community in which residents are proud, and a place where businesses can grow and flourish. We want to ensure that the city of Liberty Lake remains desirable to all and continues to be known as Spokane County's premier index. That's a basis of pride, not only for the people that work here, but pride within our community. And it's constantly regurgitated to me and to the council in our interactions with the public. They take pride and they like where our community is and is being developed. Thanks for your support to our community budget. It is, again, my honor and pleasure to be the mayor. So council, you have the binders in front of you. This is late night reading. And we also have the MVQs and so forth, but I think RJ can go into some specifics. Thank you.
City Council, Mayor. So, as the Mayor mentioned, today is October 15th. We, by statute, should have an adopted budget by December 31st of 2019. So if you have till then 2.5 months to read this, to go over it, to understand it, ask questions. I did send out the MVQs to you earlier this evening, so you have those to use on there. But as we go in through the next few weeks, next couple of months, let you know the presentation's happening tonight. There's a public hearing on the budget tonight, and I know for citizens, they haven't really even seen the budget yet. It will be posted on our website tomorrow morning for you to download. But there'll be opportunities to speak to the budget in November as well at our future council meetings. We do have slated for November 12th as a special workshop for the 2020 budget. We can have another one on another off Tuesday or another night as council chooses. The MBQs, I'm putting the due date of November 29th. That's just with all the questions to be able to process and get any changes we need to get in the budget or proposed. So that's the due date for that. And then for council approval for the budget, we have the first read on December 3rd and the second read on December 17th. So just a little highlight on the revenue expenses in your budget. On page 28, it gives you a rundown of all the funds together. And if you look at it, you look at the bottom line, you're looking at total revenue about a little over $17 million, and total expenses about almost 15.7. So it seems like we're bringing a lot of money, but we want to let you know that the differences really has to do with the reimbursement for Orchard Park. So that is why there's such a money coming in. We did in your vouchers tonight is a retainage payment for Bacon. That means they'll close out the contract. That means I can send the invoice off. I'll talk about Henry Road in relation to lift here a little bit later in the presentation. One of the things I also want to point out, when you're looking at just the general fund and streets, two operational funds. On the very last page of the budget, you'll find a 6-year forecast. In there, I'll talk about where the operation funds are before capital, and we're about $623 to the call to the good, to the black. When you throw in the capital items, which includes match cost for the Orchard Park Depot, the transfers to utility underground, so one-time costs that we consider, that number runs about $883. So it does look like there's a slight deficit when you include capital, but I do want to point out that we conservatively budget for revenues and our expenses. We also estimate probably going to be a little bit higher. So, a little bit about sales tax. It's a little bit, there's a graph on page 35 of the budget. It talks about our different revenue sources. Sales tax we're projecting to bring for 2020 about $3.4 million. Sales tax projection for the rest of this year looks like we're going to come about 3.5. Knowing the activity that we still have out there, we feel like this is a good number. 2017 was 3.3, 2018 was 3.5. We seem like we're maintaining that again. Everything, at least for the next 12 to 14 months, indicates that we should, that 3.4 million is a conservative number. The sales tax also accounts for 37% of our general fund revenue, and that's significant because property tax is only 25%. So when we first started, when I started here back 8-9 years ago, those were a little bit more closer to even on there, but sales tax has seen a lot more growth, while property tax is just steadily declining. Utility tax, I think we're back on solid ground. We had a couple of years with utility tax where we had an issue with Verizon Wireless. We had one large business in town who relocated, changed their address basically, and so so utility tax took a little bit of a hit, and I think we're going to collect about $810,000 this year at the end of the year projected. We're budgeting $825,000 for next year. Telephone is the one that really has a hard time getting the number on. The Valley talks about their telephone utility tax because what they see is a lot of people switching, cutting the cord, just going to wireless, or having just data plans, or having a plan with another family member doesn't let them necessarily live in the city. So that one is, we haven't seen that trend. It's not as well as I'd like it to be, but because I think we have so much growth, it helps offset that. Building permit revenue, we're estimating $650,000 for 2019. Right now, currently, we're sitting about $700,000 for the year. So permitting is a significant revenue source. 2018, we ended at $662,000. So we feel that's a good number based on the volume we have coming in for next year. And then property tax budget is about 2.3, which is about 25% of the revenue budget. Some of the highlights on property tax, just so you know, the city's statutory limit. That means if you went to the highest amount that you could possibly go, property tax would be about 4.3. When it says the highest lawful levy of 2.75, that refers to if you were to use your bank capacity. Currently, our proposal is that the levy would come in about 2.5, almost 2.6 million. That would, right now, the estimate that would be about $1.51 per thousand. Again, that's which is lower than all the other cities.
And we're currently at 154, correct?
Yes, correct. The portion of so just so you know, this becomes important here in a couple of years. The TIF expires, and right now our TIF estimate is about $290,000. So you know that money would no longer go up from the city; would come into our city general fund. So one more slide about property taxes here. The budget does include a 1% increase, and a 1% increase is $25,650. That is significant because if you don't do the 1%, it kind of holds a baseline. This is a compounding year after year. Our expenditures increase anywhere from 2 to 4% in a given year. This is what 1% represents. The city only receives, of your total property tax bills, for information purposes, about 12.5%. So that far left-hand corner is the amount of, we had $1, that's how much of that $1 actually was the city. Those are all the other taxing districts get. Some of the expenditure highlights. So we had a meeting last week here in the council regarding the capital facilities plan. There is a summary on page 114 in your budget book about the capital investment summary. That'll list all the projects that we're proposing to go in for the budget for 2020. And it states that's over $7 million worth of projects. I will say the Henry Road project's about 4.3 of that. So that is a longer year phase of the project. That is a significant transportation as we talk about contract with Watchdog as we prepare for financing for that project. Some of the other references is the public works yard, which is $700,000. That's proposed to come out of REIT. Pavilion Park irrigation is $250,000. That's also out of a REIT 1. The backed up generator at PD, we've been talking that one for a little over a year now. That one also is programmed to come out of the REIT 1 fund. And then we have $840,000 for Liberty Lake Road, which is from Country Vista Spray. That has a mark on it for a TIB grant. We're expected to get TIB. We have a grant into TIB for $580,000 to help finance. If we do not get the grant, we would not go forward with the project. That's coming out of streets. So, Mayor had mentioned staffing. When we were originally preliminary, we were talking about staffing. We were proposing 5 FT positions. We knocked that down to 4. Still have the new police officer, the part-time office assistant at PD, maintenance worker. We're looking at IT tech, and we're looking at an accounting tech. These positions we also budgeted to phase in to come in midway through the year, not at January 1. The one position that we did not, we have it in the salary summary. It's an engineering tech. We're not filling it, but we want the position available if there's a future time we feel if there's a need that we need that extra resource. In the planning, building, and planning, engineering, and building department, we do have a budget of about $50,000 for temporary part-time help between a building inspector and a construction inspector. So if there was a need to hire someone for our temporary needs, that we have that capacity. Salary, you see there's increases for elected officials based on the salary commission's decision. The increase proposed for staff, the compensation study, and the police officers also have their increases for the union contract. Then on benefits, we have minor adjustments, which means we're offering a few extra plans and some incentives in there, but there's no adjustment to the budget. Our premiums for insurance are not going up for AWC this year. So in the budget, it's 169 pages. What has grown this year is the appendix, because it has so much great information out there that we wanted to make sure it was in there for you to read and digest. With Lisa in the capital facilities plan, she had the executive summary with the capital investment summary pages in there. Jen has her asset management plan and with a fleet rotation schedule in there, so that information is in the back. The debt schedule for land, the mayor mentioned that is paid off in 2020. And then the fee schedules, planning and building fees are proposed increases in there. All that information is in there for your consumption. Recreation program fees that are proposed are also in there, and then other fees and taxes that would just basically more information that includes what our utility tax rates are, what our taxes are on gambling devices. I'm not saying gambling devices. What I'm saying is those little machines when you go into the store that have the little stuffed animal in it. Those type of things.
Sure.
It's called amusement devices. The Parks and Arts strategic plan is in there for you to read. The lift is in there. It has a resolution that's proposed that we want to update. The old resolution had the I-90 interchange projects was in there for $26.5 million. We have more information now updated because the last time that was updated back in 2018. That would include kind of phasing in the design for Henry Road project so that we can go and get lift reimbursement as soon as that design portion's done, and then the construction as a second piece, so we don't have to wait for the whole project to be done at once. Then there's also a couple changes that Greenstone has made. So when we get closer to bringing back the Watchdog Contract, we'll bring information more on the resolution for the updated the lift as well. And then general fund revenue detail, in case you want to see the numbers and the projections and the 6-year forecast. One of the things I forgot to mention is when you go through the individual departments, we added staffing throughout the year. So you'll see what the staffing level was in 17, 18, budgeted for 19, and 2020. That information was reviewed and have that in back so far. Questions?
Questions? Any questions yet? Then we hit the back of the binder.
Yeah, I do have just one question. I've heard both you and the mayor talk about lift and TIF this evening. At a prior presentation, County Commissioner stated that they were going to be looking into extending which one there? That the lift? It has
for 2 years. I'm sorry.
Has anything materialized in that regard? Are we looking at a possible extension? Have we exploded any more, or was that just an off-the-cuff statement? Or what do you know about that?
I still need to research it. I have not had a chance yet since they commented at the last meeting.
I'll make a comment briefly. One of the with local infrastructure financing tool. The state puts in $1 million, and the city or local funds put in $1 million to make a $2 million contribution every year. Okay. What Odin's talking about, or the commissioner speaking about, is a little bit more to, they're going to be able to extend for 2 years that collection of the sales tax. There's a tool, or there's an opportunity there to extend it so that you can collect another $2 million rather than just dropping dead effective, I think, 2035, or is that the
So I know the lift expires in 2034.
34, so that you can collect through 2036. That's basically what they were saying. So it means another $2 million that you're able to collect rather than let it expire. The other thing with Henry Road, and the commission was also talking about, funds for the bridge that goes over the right-of-way, and securing the right-of-way. And the estimated cost is about $1.5 million. The county would fund that bridge, the construction of that bridge, and take it out less than it was capable of recorded to do. So that's kind of where that conversation came from and went. Does that make sense?
In the proposed resolution that's in the budget, it does line out the county's $1.5 million for that project as well. So,
thank you.
Are you, just out of curiosity, one of the top initiatives of the council over the last 4 or 5 years has been to expand our sales tax revenue, just the diversification in sales tax revenue being 37% of our general fund revenue. Are we seeing any added diversification over the last year or two from other businesses other than just cars and RV sales? Are we tracking that, or is that something we could?
We are tracking that. The cars and RVs and construction are still your two biggest. Those are the larger portion of your sales tax. We are seeing increase is in destination sales, so like the Amazon orders and all those. We are seeing probably about a 5 to 6% increase in those items. So that is positive. It's just, it started off with very low numbers, so it's not very impressive yet. But it will be. But cars, RVs, and construction are the ones that are driving that number higher.
Mike? Question I had, a number that's come up in the past, percentage. Is it still the same where it's estimated about 35% of our sales tax does come from automobile and RVs?
It's like 40.
Oh, it's about 40%?
About 40% of it, yes.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
One other thing, Kevin, are you able to talk about your sale over there on
what we're seeing in general, or what?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I mean, we're still seeing good activity. We anticipate good construction activity through at least 9 months of 2020.
In the River District, that you're talking about. How about your commercials? Do you do the commercial side? The commercial side of Toledo Station, anything that you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I mean, we have, we had a major sale in Toledo Station to one user of about 30 acres. It's going to have a significant impact on sales tax revenue going forward. I mean, at this point, it's a little hard to nail down exactly when that'll start because they have a lot of planning and processing to do. So.
I guess the point being, to Hugh's point, I think, is this diversification. That is kind of like a step program, correct? So you have to buy the land, then you put up your facility, etc. So the land was, the sale on the land was, I think, is a recorded document. Was it in the
August?
$5 million. You sold how many acres?
What? 30 acres. 30 acres.
Yeah. 6.5.
Pardon?
6.5 million.
$6.5 million investment in our community. That's just for the dirt. So Toledo Station's looking better.
Yeah.
Thank you. RJ, any other questions?
Thank you.
Anita.
Okay, I'm here tonight to talk about the audio-visual, which is referred to as AV, meeting recording and electronic city clerk software that we're looking at. We've mentioned this once before to you. I wanted to go over the main points for the audio-visual recording part of this, what our goals are for that. We've done a lot of research on this, and so these are the goals that we came up with. One was to increase the quality of recordings for the various media sources that we do. We're all aware of some difficulties that we've had. We're doing the best with what we have. We need better, and that's why we're looking at this proposal today. One thing that we want to do is also have live, current, and archive meetings with both audio and video. Currently, we only have audio available to the public through our website, or we just started doing the recording live on Facebook. We also want to increase civic awareness of public meetings. So we're going to start with our city council meetings. I have been recording some of the planning commission and the parks and arts meetings also to try to bring some awareness. We've had some pretty good support with that, and we hope to increase that a lot. So for the electronic city clerk, what we would like to do is to bring in some electronic technology to help the city clerk do her job better. We want to reduce the staff hours and the consumables. Consumables would be printers, printing papers, Today I saw the printer running, and it must have ran about that much paper off for, you know, everything that we do here. So we'll give them better opportunity to have that done electronically. We'll also have accessibility for extensive search capabilities of the agendas, the minutes, and the meeting recordings to the public and to staff and council and other commissioners, so that it's readily available. You can go to it at any time, look at the archive, look at a current meeting. You can do a search by word to find what you're looking for without having to make a meeting request to staff here to consume their time. It's going to be very readily available online instead on our website. Okay? So one thing that we've done is that we've researched 3 vendors, and we've done an extensive research. I have a page over there, 11 by 17 inch page of all the different things that we were looking at in this software. One was Granicus, which we were looking for the city clerk and the AV recording features, also Civic Plus. Vimeo is another option if we were just going to do the AV recording only. They don't have a city clerk software available. We also need to do a little bit of revamping to this room to make it more accessible to how we're doing it. If you notice up in the right-hand corner there, for the AV recording space behind the south wall, which would be that corner over there, we would be putting in a window so that there would be a AV recording done in the conference room back in that area instead of having it done directly here in the city council room, because there's going to be more equipment involved. So what we're doing tonight is bringing to the council and to the public the evaluation of what we've done so far. In our evaluation, we were really leaning towards Civic Plus. It has the city clerk and the AV recording capabilities. One pro to it that we also have Civic Plus as our website provider, along with other tools that we use for the city. Then we started looking even deeper, and we're looking at Granicus also, which has the same features. The pro that it has is that it has an advanced citizen search capability. You can just put in a word and come up with any minutes or agendas that you want directly with that. So, and it's also a proven product. So you can go online and look for Granicus cities throughout the nation, and you'll find many of them. Civic Plus isn't as popular or as proven as the Granicus is. So if you look at the cost numbers, the AV recording space would be about $5,000 for us to do those renovations. If we went with Civic Plus, it includes also the equipment that we need to update our audio equipment in this room and cameras. So instead of me having that back there, we would actually have cameras. Someone made a comment online that they couldn't see all the council people. That's because I was focused here on the podium. That's one of the disadvantages. We want to eliminate some of those problems and be able to broadcast in a much better way so that everybody that's here can be seen when they're speaking. So then the Civic Plus, the 5-year cost projection on it would be $90,000, and the 5-year cost for Granicus would be $105,000. So the major benefits of us doing these 2 projects together is that we have better accessibility, we have more efficiency, and we have better quality. So, any questions?
I just observed that the city of Spokane Valley is using Granicus, and when I've had the chance to look and review, it's really powerful. The ability to review and understand coincident to the agenda, move to this point in the video, for example, I value.
Yes, it really does add a lot of value, and that is definitely Spokane Valley is one of the cities that we did some research on.
You've got the 5-year capital cost estimate. What about the ongoing software service? Is that
actually does include? I'm sorry, I might have mislabeled that as capital costs, but yeah, that's a 5-year projection.
So that's fully loaded.
Complete. Yes.
And also, I just want to mention that whether you go with Granicus or Civic Plus or not or nothing, this is included in the budget. So based on the research, we were kind of leaning one way, which was Civic Plus, but as we dug down and looked at some of their cities and the product line, we're kind of now leaning towards Granicus, so we're not asking you to make a decision tonight. I think Anita just wanted you to make aware of what we've included in the budget, and we're still evaluating.
What section in the budget will we find this? Just to give us a quick cheat sheet. What section? Is it under administrative?
It's under administrative, yes, and it's also in capital facilities plan.
Right, but like I said, 105,000 over 5 years. I wanted to look at the line item.
It's roughly 25,000 startup first year.
That's what I was looking
approximately.
for. Thanks.
Anyone else?
And I'll just throw one other. Having looked at these applications and their user interfaces, do you feel comfortable as a staff member being able to operate with them?
Absolutely. Both tools are very intuitive. We had demos done by both of them. We also had a review demo done by Granicus, and both Ann and myself looked at it quite extensively, asked a lot of questions. Ann was very comfortable either way because she's the one who's going to be using it mainly on that on the civic, on the city clerk piece of it. I'll be using the recording, or the IT person will at some point. But yeah, all the pieces are very, very intuitive. Yes, ma'am.
Anita is very good. I really appreciate, obviously you've done a lot of research on this. I'm not just speaking for myself, but I think all the council, it's something we've been very conscientious of for a long period of time, is to try to get it to where the acoustics is very good in this room, to encourage citizens to come in. For those that can't come in, that they could go online. So I think the steps that we're taking is really for the benefit of our citizens long term. What I'd like to throw out is for us to take into consideration, so what has come up this time, come up in the past, come up again, is the possibility of looking at this coming year, what would it be to extend this wall out, which has been talked about before. I would hope that we take that into consideration with this here, because it would be disadvantage to us and the citizens to put all this money in just to cover this square footage. And if we do move this out, so they go, oh gosh, I wish we would have looked at this better. So I would like for us to take that into consideration, that if this is moved out and that is enclosed out there, that this would be adequate for that space.
And I think that would be something that we would do actually separate at this point. We're getting the pieces put together that will give us the capability. This room is small. We know that the equipment that we're purchasing will be able to expand into a larger space. So we've already taken some of that into consideration.
Good.
We can add other cameras in if we need to. So, and that'll add a little cost, but that's something that
Good.
we could take to you to approve.
Excellent, thank you.
Please, thank you, ma'am. Anita, at times throughout the past year or two, I personally have brought up and tried to stir some discussion about the electronic voting board and recording to the electronic city clerk. I think it would be beneficial if we had a board here that showed how everybody votes at the time that they vote, and have that go directly to the software that Ann would be using. Is any of that feasible with what we're talking about at this time, and have we considered that in the prices?
Actually, we have. Civic Plus actually includes it in theirs, and Granicus has it as an add-on, and that is included in the cost measurements that we looked at. It is very intuitive. Ann has the capability of doing a unanimous vote. She has a capability of marking each person, and it does a roll call, and it's part of the record that's put out to the public.
And it shows a board in this room that would allow the citizens to
I would have to look at that to see if it could be on the screen as they're voting. And it might be that we do voting a different way, their roll call is taken or something too. But yeah.
Well, I appreciate you looking into that. Thank you.
Other questions? I think this is, thank you, Anita. It's, again, an excellent job by our staff to take a process like this and say, you know, we started out with a camera and tried to put it on the Facebook, etc. And I think we're taking the next step to make it true reality going forward. So, with that said, there are reports, right? Is that correct? So I see Bill in the sewer district's here.
Council, Bill General. I like the way you speak into the microphone. Your voice is very clear. We all need to work on that a little bit. Sitting in the audience, it was easy to hear her, and sometimes not so easy to hear all of you. Budgets, wow. In my life, I've done a lot of budgets, and it's quite a balancing act that you go through. And it looks like you've done a wonderful job because everybody wants something, and there's only so much resource, and there's so much need, and the need goes this way, the resources are here. So to get those tied in with a pretty good comprehensive plan is to you a good thing. Okay, what's going on with the sewer? Leaf pickup. 11-9. We haven't talked about it. We're talking about it again. So make sure you get those bags out. It's a community effort between the city of Liberty Lake and our water district, sewer water district. So we do a good job. 12,000 bags last year. A lot of leaves. So that's to be commended. A little kudos for some of the guys that work in our treatment plant. So EPA came in and gave us the wastewater treatment plant Outstanding Performance Award. That pretty much goes to the guys that run that plant, and they do an outstanding job. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better crew, more dedicated, great guys. We sent out some requests for proposals to we received back five proposals from local attorneys around here because our attorney's leaving. So it looks like we've got an excellent group of candidates. And we're going to go through a process, and hopefully we will select somebody in December. Talk about debt service a little bit. You don't know how fortunate you are. We, this have a lot of debt. So we know all about how crushing debt can be. So be glad that you are in a financial position that you're in, because that's a big deal. Very big deal. I mean, when we put that treatment plant in, it was very expensive. And we're not a big district, so it took a lot of ingenuity, a lot of planning. Sizing that facility is very important. So when you look at libraries and buildings and whatever you do, look to the future a little bit, as we did. You know, we got 2 million gallon capacity, and we don't need that right now, but we will. So that's how we planned it, and that's how it's built. Okay, any questions?
No.
Thank you.
As long as the tap comes on and the toilet flushes, we're all happy. Thanks, Bill. Do we have our planning commission here tonight? No?
Good evening. My name is Phil Foyer, Planning Commission Chair. We had a Planning Commission meeting last Wednesday, October 9th. The Commission ratified its findings, conclusions, and recommendations from the public hearing we held with 10 different comp plan and code amendments in August. I think it's on your agenda. Barbara Barker presented an excellent workshop pertaining to possible amendments to the city landscape code. We had a great discussion. Used up most of our meeting time discussing it. Just can't say how well she presented that. We reviewed the comp plan guidelines as they stand. We discussed existing codes as they stand, and we evaluated goals for revisions going forward for forward discussions. Barbara sent all the commissioners home with 30 suggestions to review prior to our next meeting in November for further discussion. Barbara also presented current building development stats for the 2019 year to date, and you can see what it's done to your budget. So it wasn't the Lisa show, but it was a great meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, November 13th. That concludes my report. Any questions?
No, thanks, Phil.
Thank you for your service.
Is our Parks Arts Commission?
Hello, Laura Frank, and I'm with the Parks and Arts Commission. I'm here tonight just to give you a quick update on one of our projects. We are moving full force ahead on the Pavilion Park mural. We've been working on this for the last several months. We had an open call to artists that was about 6 weeks. Had what I would consider a tremendous response of very good, high-quality artists. We've put together a selection committee, and we voted. We interviewed each of the 5 finalists for the artist, reviewed it as a group, and then the group voted, and we selected an artist to move forward with. We're in the process of putting an artist agreement together. We've been working with some folks from Spokane Arts for examples, and we look to have that to you in your, I think it's the November 19th council meeting for approval. And we also did want to mention that we do have a sponsor that is matching the funds of the city for this mural, which again allowed us just to really attract some high caliber artists in our community. Any questions?
No. When you come forward with this information, will you have drawings or ideas of what this mural is going to be?
Do we have a...
Yeah, in fact, I think Jen could we grab it?
Yes, so we have we have a rendering, and I guess just for your information, if you weren't, if you hadn't looked at the call to artists, we had really wanted to at Pavilion Park, because there's such a rich history in that park from the old Liberty Lake Park. We wanted to focus on, when we looked at common themes throughout our history, there was just a really strong theme of music and gatherings. And so we asked all the artists to focus on, and we gave them 3 different eras that we wanted them to look at. The tribal gatherings, the resort era, and then modern day. And the artist that was selected took a very unique take on it, and also brought back the Liberty Lake Carousel, which is currently residing in Dearborn, Michigan at the Henry Ford Museum. And so he took that, and in each of the relief vignettes on the carousel, focused on each of those 3 time periods that we asked. And then the piece that Anita is bringing by, the submission currently shows children riders on the carousel animals, but we've been working with the artist, and he's updating that to be people throughout our history in Liberty Lake, musicians, band leaders, dancers, singers. And so what we're really excited about from, well, one, the art piece of it, I'm just so excited to be introducing this into the community, but also the ability to tell our history. So there's a very rich history that a lot of people are not aware of, and especially as our community continues to grow, we just want to make sure that we stay connected to that. And for this piece in particular, the carousel was part of Liberty Lake Park, and Pavilion Park really is the perfect place to be able to showcase that. So the potentials that we have moving forward to connect our history to that artwork is pretty tremendous, and we're excited to be able to bring that to the community. Yes.
Or just a comment. So I was lucky enough to get to join this conversation, and thank you, Laura, for all the work that you put in, the rest of the committee. I really hope that we can invite Ross to come and talk about the history about this a little bit on November 19th. I'll share with the council that sitting with this group, Ross Schneidmiller joined, and he's a bit of a historian. I don't know if he's technically a historian or not, but he sure is. This was my least favorite piece until Ross talked through the history and some of the opportunities that this will bring by being out there. Then became my most favorite piece by a long shot. Not that it was my choice, it was the group's choice, but just really, really unique piece about the history of the carousel that Laura was just referring to, and each of the characters that this artist can bring in. So really thank you to the committee and to the Parks and Arts Commission for putting this out there, and all the work you guys have put in. This is going to be a real treasure for our city.
Yeah, thank you for participating in that. We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm curious that physically where would it be on the building?
Yeah, so it's on the wall. Yeah.
So these are, it's going to be on the north side. These are the restroom doors, if I'm not
You're correct,
mistaken. Yeah. So it'll be, the door will be on the north side of the building. So I'll hold it up. It's hard to see from the distance.
I know that we've talked about this in the past, where originally it was kind of being talked about, that was going to be painted actually on the brick.
Yeah,
so I think we're going to have it's going to be raised off that, correct?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. And it was actually a very interesting process interviewing the artist and kind of getting to pick their brains on what they would do. So this particular artist has opted not to work on the actual building surface. So He will be painting panels. They're going to be marine grade panel boards that he'll do in studio, and then the actual installation on the building will just be some anchor strips, and then those panels will mount directly to that and just secure in a couple of corners to the building. The really unique piece of doing it that way, one is, our goal was to try to get it in this calendar year. Due to the time of the season that we're in, we didn't want to put it in and then have it sit over the winter. So this allows the artist to work on it through the winter, and then we can install it in a couple days and have more of a reveal in the spring, kind of as we're opening up the parks to the public, and really having that be part of the showcase of the park when we do that. The other benefit to that is any future restoration work that needs to be done, we can just take off that individual panel and be able to do any touch-ups and then remount it without impacting the integrity of the building. And then also, you know, I mean, as we continue to look at incorporating arts and in the future, maybe this is something that we want to change out in 10 or 15 years. It just gives us a lot more flexibility to be able to do that.
Excellent, excellent, very good. I'm very pleased to hear that.
Oh, and sorry, Jen just reminded me. So when I was doing a little research on this carousel, I found on the Henry Ford Museum site that they originally had a goat as one of the animals. And so we did talk to the artist about changing out one of the animals to incorporate that kind of unique modern history of the goats and everything. So that's hilarious.
So Steve, do you want the zebra or the frog? I'm riding the goat, buddy.
You're the goat. No, you're the man.
Laura, on the storyboards that we're putting out into the parks, they have a cover over the work itself. Is there going to be a cover over the artwork itself to prevent splashing, throwing things on it?
There's an opportunity, and this would be part of, as we work through the details of the artist agreement, you can put, it'll definitely be sealed, but you can go one step further and put an anti-graffiti coating on it. So we need to understand better with the artist if there's an additional cost to be able to do that. There's pros and cons to it. So the pro is that graffiti will come off very easily. The con is that as you clean it, it does start to take off that coating, and it would make future touch-ups or restoration work a little more challenging. So it's just weighing those options and understanding the costs associated with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, before you go, I want you to, I mean, this is a great project, but I wanted you to comment about
some of the other artists that came, because it was a very tough choice
It was.
to make this.
It was. So we had 13 artists that submitted for this particular project, and some of them submitted up to 4 different designs. We saw a wide variety in style, texture. We had, and I think the artist that you're referring to does a lot of work with concrete and mosaic and glass beads and tiles. And being able to just sit in on this, I was a non-voting member of the panel, being the commission representative, but just sitting in on it, getting to talk to the artists, see their passion in our community and their work. We just have so many wonderful opportunities in our city to be able to share their art and share their visions, and so I'm really excited to see how this moves forward.
What's the estimated budget on this?
We have, so the city portion would not exceed $6,500. Our budgeted item was $10,000, but because we were able to find a donor, we're going to be matching those funds, $6,500 from the donor and from the city. So we'll come in under our budget, but we'll be able to, again, we were able to attract those higher caliber and quality artists.
Very good.
And just, I guess, for your information, we did research neighboring communities and spoke with other arts commissions to get a better understanding of what, and I'd say specifically I reached out on the Spokane murals that they've been doing on the underpasses, and just understanding what they're offering, what their price per square foot is, and so we have a lot of really good information moving forward on projects as well.
Excellent.
Laura, one thing that you guys discussed at that committee meeting was the potential of putting a plaque or something like that further away from the mural, so that it could be kind of an opportunity for educating about the mural, maybe an opportunity for web presence, something like that.
I can touch on that real quick. We haven't really discussed this as part of the commission, but one of the conversations that came up is, you know, maybe up at the top of the hill in the park by the flagpole, that we could have some kind of plaque that really focuses on, and I'd say, thinking of it to scenic outlooks, you're standing here and here's what you see and here's the tie-in. So why does our pavilion look the way it does? Why does our concession building look the way it does? What's the meaning behind the carousel in the mural? So it just really gives us, again, another great opportunity to share the history of our community.
Yes, one thing that was encouraged was when you guys come with the full project and you have the artist agreement and those sorts of things, if you can maybe include that with the project, it seemed like such an important piece. It would be, especially knowing that you're significantly under budget, that the rich history of what could happen here, the whole project should come to the council is one thing, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, we can discuss that at our meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I see our library board is here.
Good evening, Mayor Peterson, Council, and Katie, and all the citizens of Liberty Lake who are attending tonight. I'm Sandy Bishop, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees for the Liberty Lake Municipal Library. And I'm going to give you as quick an update as I can, because we've been having a very busy September and early October. So we've had the library consultants, Bolin and Associates, hold focus group sessions to assess needs and desires from our community. We had 75 citizens attend the focus groups. There was also an online survey with about 25 questions in which 455 people participated, which is about 5% of our population. So it's not bad. And we may even have more because the survey closed yesterday, so I don't have final numbers at this point. So the results of the focus groups and the survey will be compiled by the consultants, and we'll be having a meeting on the 29th, compiling all of this information, and then a 5-year plan will be written. So stay tuned for the specifics, because all that information is going to be brought to you at your December meeting. In the meantime, the Board of Trustees are figuring out what the best avenues would be to communicate the results of this library survey. If you have some suggestions, send them our way. We've rewritten mission statement, vision statement, and core values. They're being tweaked as I speak. Library policies and procedures continue to be updated, and the most favorite one is no more late fines for overdue books. So the summer reading program was a great success. In 2018, there were 700 participants with 39% completing the program, and in 2019, 1,000 participated with a 44% completion rate. So I know Jocelyn was quite excited about that. And one last item, many of you may have heard or even contributed to the Liberty Lake quilt, library quilt. And that is going to be displayed in the library sometime in December, so stop on by and see that. Are there any questions that I can answer?
No, but I think you have a very effective here, right? So you have a very effective group working right now.
Yes,
so
we do,
yeah.
Friends of the Liberty Lake Library have raised almost $10,000 as an estate. It's the most, I think, ever. Wow. Thanks, Holly, and your team. Wow. Yes, Mike?
Probably a question also for Jocelyn. I know that you had put out there that you were trying to get at least 2 other council members to be able to be involved on the 29th. Have you been able to have any more volunteers?
Yeah, Council Member Bob Moore is also going to be there, so there's 1 spot left. If any of you council members want to participate, just let me know.
Here's your chance.
Is it catered?
I think it's a box lunch.
We will be providing lunch.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Raise your hand all one time. We'll find another person, I guarantee you. Any other, the fire district is not here. I don't see the fire district, so I think we're good to go.
City council reports?
I'll take mine. I'll try again here. Mike Kennedy and I both attended the Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce's Government Action Committee meeting this week. This was an opportunity for the LA Chamber's Government Action Group to get organized for the upcoming 2020 legislative session. It was very well attended. I was impressed with the collection of both business and education leaders that showed up to try and understand the objective. Their objective was to form a set of, I'd say, very high-level priorities so that the Chamber can be more agile in the face of legislative change as it occurs during the session. So, any other observations, Mike?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Colin, anything from you?
No, it pretty much covered it.
Okay, all right.
We'll be talking about more specifics in the coming meetings.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I would like to expand a little bit if I could. Mark Sabe did an excellent job of getting up and saying how well the candidate forum was last week. I have to say the same thing. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. I think the attendance was pretty good. You know, I was first hand 2 years ago when they did it the first time, and I'm here to tell you that last Thursday was 100% better. Last year, 2 years ago, as Odin knows, the acoustic was absolutely terrible. They had divided the gymnasium in half, and they had basketball going on one side, and it was just amazing. There was a lot more students, and of course there was a lot of parents there of the students on it. But I thought all the candidates did very well. I was pleased that everybody showed up, and everybody looked very nice. So, looking forward to November 5th.
Okay, yeah. Odin?
Please, sir. Yeah, I wanted to join Mark and now Mike's voice. You all made us proud, okay? Whether you were a candidate or a student, very proud of you. You did an excellent job. That's everyone. Just to let the staff know that if I'm looking at the flags correctly, could we get the city flag lowered just a little bit so it doesn't stand as tall as the American flag? The other thing I wanted to bring to council's attention before we get too far down the road, particularly to the Mayor Pro Tem, when I drive by Madison and Appleway, I noticed that the light control boxes are just about in the exact same distance back from the road as was Signal.
Saw that myself.
And I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention before we get too far down the road as to whether or not you think that poses a problem or not.
Which intersection is that?
Appleway and Madison.
Madison and Appleway.
Where the new ones
We're
are.
getting ready to install new ones. So, and it's on the same side as the one on Signal. So, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll have Scott look into that tomorrow. Any other reports? Not here. Any, Katie?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I was looking at Anita's presentation and I realized that mine is really second fiddle. I just do bullets and numbers, so sorry about that. I'm going to give you a somewhat in-depth update on Harvard and Henry Road. And the reason I want to do that is because the next time we have a meeting for you to approve the Watchdog budget, I want you to understand some of the terms and condition and also the status of the project. And also, we are getting questions about giving an artist rendering or a profile of the project. We don't have any of that because we don't have our engineer on board yet. And so this is the figure that I've been using. So if you see this floating around, it's basically the red line shows you where the new Henry Road overpass would go. So on that note, Ann's going to help me put up another update, and I'm going to kind of do this in two parts. One is kind of there's Harvard and there's Henry. So let me start with Harvard. The bridge is closed tonight. In fact, it closed as we speak. It probably closed about an hour ago. The overlay is going very well, and tonight we hope to have the final lift put on the southbound lane. So we're also looking at a zipper lane Scott's working on that. I don't have a date, but we'll have more information. A zipper is where you don't have one lane merge into the other. You basically have alternating merges. So we're working on that. There'll be a signage so that you don't end up with a long leg and a short leg. You end up with two equal legs, and people take turns crossing into one lane. It's only for 1 year because if everything goes well, we'll have a second northbound lane. So on that note, I wanted to give you an update of Harvard widening and westbound on-ramp. The design should be 100% complete in December, and then we turn it over to Watchdog. They go to add an award, and then construction would be the summer and fall of 2020. So funding, and I'll get down to the risks in a minute, but this is assuming that funding moves forward. And then the Henry Road overpass, kind of a quick update. It's a little bit more complicated, so there's a lot more steps. So I'll go quickly. As you know, Spokane County easement is complete. RJ has updated the TIF and LIF project definition to include reimbursement to us for our contribution as well as the county. That will come to you for your approval when we approve the Watchdog contract. The Watchdog contract is in the Attorney General's office right now. I called Watchdog this morning. I don't have an update. They're backlogged and they don't have a lot of resources, so I'm pushing really hard to get this done before the end of October. And when it is done, I'm going to ask the council to have a special meeting, and then one thing on the agenda will be to approve this contract. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. Then also, the council action, so probably, I don't have the dates in front of me, but between tonight and the end of this month, I hope I have this contract complete for your approval. The right-of-way appraisal is underway. We expect to have the first appraisal, and as you know, this is a credit towards our $6 million. Should be done October 22nd. I have, and the value of that, and remind me, was it 40, how much? 40, yeah, it was, I think it was $4,800 to do the appraisal. Then we're required to get a second appraisal. We have selected a firm along with Watchdog to do that. We should have it by the first part of November, and that's to confirm what the first appraisal was. I will also mention, but I can't promise, I'm hoping that we have the first appraisal complete when you award the contract so you know what the credit is. So that is moving along, and then we should have the second appraisal the second week of November. Design consultant selection is underway. We have a lot of firms, they're all local, looking at the design of this bridge. Lisa is managing the design consultant selection process. If things go well, we expect to have that contract before you on December 3rd for your approval. Spokane County maintenance agreement and Watchdog maintenance agreement. I started working on those today. Those are other things that you're going to have to approve. These documents identify what the city's going to do and what the county's going to do on their span and what the state is going to do on their span, just for purposes of clarification. The county span goes over their right-of-way. The Watchdog span goes over their right-of-way. They will own these structures. We will maintain them. So we'll plow them, fix the potholes, etc. So if everything goes well, design will be underway in 2020, and construction will be in 2021 and 2022. So with that, I'm going to go through very quickly the terms and conditions of the Watchdog contract. I did share this with you. It is in draft form, but this is the content that is being reviewed by the Attorney General's office right now. So the City of Liberty Lake will be responsible for $6 million minus credits. Credits are the value of the right-of-way and the cost of the services that we provide. In addition, we'll be responsible for any overruns in Liberty Lake that exceed $20.9 million. The credits, as I mentioned, will be the value of the right-of-way based on the appraisal, and the services will include design, biddable documents, environmental, geotech survey, utility coordination, hydraulics, traffic management, and landscaping. So this is a huge undertaking for our city, but we will be managing all of that. And then on the south end of this project, which is where Appleway / Country Vista and Henry Road connect, we have not done any design work, and so there is the potential that we'll need additional right-of-way, but until we hire a consulting engineer, I'm not able to say, but I just want to make you aware there may be additional right-of-way. If there is, then I will have to follow the Watchdog real estate acquisition process. It is a career. I've read the requirements. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of work, but it's doable. It's, you know, there's consultants out there that do this for a living. But I'm just being very honest with you because it's a major undertaking if we do need additional right-of-way. So on that note, Watchdog is responsible to review all of our work. They advertise and award the contract, and then they manage the construction piece. What I didn't include is we will manage the landscaping, the landscape designs and irrigation systems that we install. We want to own those, and Watchdog does not want to own those or be responsible, so we would have a landscape contract separate from the construction of the overpass and the road. The risks and unknowns, so I just want to be very honest with you. This project doesn't have a lot of, there's challenges like all projects do. There isn't any one thing that could make this project be a catastrophe. I'll just say that. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of work to do. So let me cover what those are. I've already mentioned the intersection design at Henry and Country Vista. It's complicated. There's utilities, there's alignment challenges, and there's right-of-way. So it's manageable. It's just we need to look at the options in the design that would work best for the corridor as well as the construction of the project. And so that's one risk and unknown. Utility coordination. There's water, sewer, there's high pressure gas, there's monitoring valves. There's a lot of utilities, there's transmission lines. All of those have to be adjusted. That's very normal, but it's a risk, it's an unknown, but you manage it. Budget confirmation is based on design. It's not based on the biddable documents, and so what our focus is to bring forward a design that's within our budget, and that's what we're going to tell our consultants is, you know, we really need somebody that can design something to the budget that we have. And then before I go to Initiative 976, I do want to mention that when we bring this back to you to approve the contract, RJ and I have worked with Watchdog, and we have what-if scenarios, and we will go through those with you. Based on what we see on the budget side and the way the contract is structured, we feel that the project has to almost run 25% over budget for it to trigger our contribution to an overage of 20.9. It's complicated, but we will go through that with you. So you can say, what if Barker Road happens this, what if Harvard does this, and then we can play around with Henry so you can see how it plays out. But let me suffice it to say that if the budget runs 25%, which is a lot, over budget, then it would trigger the 20.9 million. Right now, depending on the value of the right-of-way and the services, we structured it so that the reimbursable, and this is an important piece, the reimbursable to us has to be off Henry Road because Henry Road is in the boundary of the tip and left. So it's very important that all of our charges and credits are related to the Henry Road overpass, north of Country Vista and south of Mission, because we have to stay in the boundary. So we all know Initiative 976, so it's a risk, and even if the vote passes, so let's say this measure passes, we still won't know for sure. If it fails, we know that it's likely it's not going to affect the funding for this project. If it were to pass, this is the $30 license tab fee that's on our ballots in the next couple of weeks. And if it does pass, the question is how long is it going to take before we know if there's an impact on our project. But there's a possibility. So with that, I know it's a lot of information. I went fast, but things are moving along.
Okay. Two questions, please. Under risk and unknowns, 1 and 2, are those included in the possible $27 million project, or is that in addition to?
So let me answer the question. The way the project was scoped was based on a planning level document. It was to have included, and this is, remember, these were numbers that were put together without survey and without design. So they're planning level documents. So our goal is to deliver this project, those intersections and utilities within the budget that was set aside.
Because I think an obvious question, which has been asked previously, so I'm just going to reiterate, will come up is that what are the possibility unknowns that will hit us over and above what we're doing with the overpass over the extra lake. So that's going to be as we move
So
forward.
generally speaking, when you put together a planning level budget, you include contingencies for things such as this. They didn't get down, this is not a, let me just say this is not a complicated project. There's a lot of moving pieces that are normal. You just have to manage those things. When you do a planning level design, you always include escalation and you always include contingency. Those have been included, but until I get my biddable documents, these are risks that are always managed on these kinds of public projects, always.
I appreciate the comment that it's a simplistic thing, but from our standpoint, we're having to agree to a contract without knowing what the end is going to be. So having said that, I'd like to ask this question. Back up on possibly the responsibility for the overruns beyond 20.9 Holding Liberty Lake. Now, I just want to reiterate for the benefit of the citizens, when it comes to Barker Road, we're not going to have to be involved in any overages that runs there. But the Barker Road project, isn't that in the 20.9 million?
It's in the 26.9.
26.9.
Yeah. It gets kind of complicated, but...
Well, you could, like I say, you said it's very simple, but yet it gets complicated.
It does, no, I don't want to say, the design and the construction of this project is very straightforward.
Right.
The complexity is managing the unknowns and the risks. Right. And so what I will say is that based on conversations that I've had with Watchdog, we think that Barker Road and Harvard Road are very much going to be honorable a budget, so that adds resources to the Henry Road overpass. So, but also I want to be fair that until we have biddable documents, right, I'm not able to be more specific. We do have some fallback design scenarios to keep us within budget if things get challenging, but I want to be honest that there are risks and unknowns.
Thanks, Katie.
So if that doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, I don't know what would.
No, I've said many times, I'm comfortable and very positive that we will move forward with this. Things will come together because, for the benefit of everybody, we've had things fall together that never should have fallen together, I believe. Working with the county, working with landowners, things of the sort here. So I think it's destined we're going to be able to move forward. My concern is going to be, is there any gotchas after the fact? That, oh, we forgot about the roundabout, or we forgot about a roundabout in both areas. But no, it's not included, and that's another X number of dollars. And we don't sit here and go, well, I didn't know about that.
Well, the goal is that I think we don't want there to be surprises for you,
right,
and so that's why we need to do our due diligence.
And I don't want them to have surprises for these guys.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question for RJ. RJ, I didn't see it in the budget. It's not in there, but what is our bonding capacity now?
Our bonding capacity? I need to update the numbers. I haven't run for this year, but I believe we're in the $24 to $25 million range.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Other comments on Kate's report?
I have two more things to go over real quick, and then RJ really.
Oh, sorry.
RJ has a dashboard he wants to show you. So last council meeting, there was questions about the Pavilion Heroes workout station. I had a chance to talk to Bob. And so what I learned is that they put 35 and 35, which is 70, into the Orchard Park Fallen Hero workout station, and it's because it was fire and police. So they didn't know that there was two. The group is still active, and they have a bank account. They just have paused until Orchard Park got done. And then what is it going to be, and where in the park is it going to go? We haven't even begun to talk about that yet. But that's why it was 70,000, was because it was police and fire.
Katie, I had an opportunity to talk to Bob also, and he mentioned something about early, long time ago conversations with Amanda in particular, about whether or not, my question is, does the 35 for one project include infrastructure needed in the park, or does that 35 assume there's already infrastructure for the Fallen Heroes equipment to be installed?
So I don't know the location that Amanda had in mind, and so I'd have to go back and look. I do not believe that, so let me back up too. There is very little infrastructure associated with these Fallen Heroes projects. It's actually capping and rerouting irrigation lines. I don't want to shoot in the dark. Let me get more information. I don't know exactly where it was planned to go, and so I need to do some research on that.
I also didn't think it was significant, like the cost of the infrastructure, so I don't know if that's footings or.
Oh, and, or Jen can answer that.
So it actually was included on the original plan set for the park. It was one of the early parts that they removed for cost. And it was slated to be up in the area of the basketball court and the tennis courts. So there was a footprint for it, and it was removed. So we could probably, assuming, put it in the same area.
I guess I just went back to, does 35 grand include the infrastructure? Is it 35 grand equipment plus whatever the?
So we haven't gone to that level.
Okay,
It's a budget number, and most of the workout stations that we have, our crews actually do a lot of the preparatory work, and then you hire a contractor to install the base as well as the equipment. There is a warranty associated with it, but you have to pick the equipment, and that hasn't even been done yet. So they aren't sure what kind of equipment they'll be selecting.
Just for budget purposes, if we just figure out, is it 35, is it one project, or, you know?
So right now it's one project for 70, but it could certainly be split between two for 35,000 each.
Great. Some clarification around that would be great.
Yeah,
for the
okay,
budget
and then
process.
also just a quick question. In the past, I know staff worked directly with the Fallen Heroes Committee, and we haven't started that. My suggestion is that we reconvene our group and the Fallen Heroes group so that we can hear from them what input they have as far as the location and what kind of equipment they have in mind, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Okay.
Good.
But we haven't started those discussions.
Okay.
And then finally, quick recap, Walk for Maryland Damon's is this Saturday, I believe it's at 9:30. Halloween Family Night at the Library, leaf pickup November 9th. And then our Employee Appreciation Holiday Potluck is December 12th. And then RJ, did you want to hand out your...
All right, hand out the dashboard.
Okay, dashboard, did you have anything else?
Katie, can I ask one quick question while Bertie's coming up? I've had a couple citizens ask, and it's not our project, but it's affecting our Liberty Lake citizens. So the county repaved about 90% of Appleway from our city limits to the state line, and we still haven't put any lines on the street. People are starting to get concerned about that, especially with the weather turning. Is there somebody we can contact at the county to find out what their timing is on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will do that.
So you have the September dashboard should be in front of you. Just a couple of the highlights on there. The sales tax between this year. Now, we were trailing a little bit below last year's number, but we had a significant amount coming in September. So we're almost on par where we were at this time last year, just about 20,000 off. Expenditures are just slightly ahead of revenues, but property tax comes in October and November, so that will flip again when we get our property tax, which is about $940,000 coming in over the next 2 months. Project-wise, I do want to highlight one of the projects. Orchard Park Phase 1 is higher than what the budget says. The budget includes numbers for 2019. It doesn't carry over from 18 into 19, so that's why there is a discrepancy in there when we're looking at that budget. 2018, so just an update. While we're looking at 2020, we're living in 2019, we still have our audit for 2018 going on. The exit interview hasn't been scheduled yet. They're still finishing up on some of their work off-site, so they had a couple follow-up questions for you. So as soon as I know of an exit interview date, I'll let council know when we schedule that. It'll be here at City Hall, City Council sometime during the daytime. And the other thing I want to mention at 6, we've talked with our city attorney's contractor, so this comes up at the end of this year. There is a language in the contract that says we can extend for 1 year. We have talked to the city attorney, is okay with the same rate going for 2020. If I don't hear otherwise, we'll bring something back on November 19th, and she wants to vote for our RFP process. We thought go 1 more year, then go out again in 2020. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, this is my error, in the vouchers, there's a $12,000 payment for US Micro for installing computers in the police officer's car. And that we had to do an emergency purchase because we needed to get that into the cars, and I needed to bring back a resolution for that, and I'll bring that back in November. But basically what happened is at the end of this month, they needed to be up with Windows 10 in the cars, and some of the cars didn't have that, and so we're contracting with the county to get them up to date and get them scheduled so they're able to work on the
So you're asking us to approve the voucher before
we need to get the work done, so the work's been done. And what I need to do is bring back a resolution that says we couldn't go through the purchasing process.
Who's
We
the
did.
Who's the vendor?
US Micro, let's check number 29071. What we would with them, because they're the contract with the county, and so the cars are going to the county to get this updated. We checked with our own IT staff, it would be $8,000 more for them to do it, so we went with the county because they have the experience.
Sean, is there anything we should be worried about procedure-wise with doing it in this order?
I don't think so, no. Okay. Mike?
No, I'm gonna wait till we get into the action items. But it'll come back to check register.
This is up on our website? This
will be tomorrow.
Tomorrow? So I want to point out that Arrow is exceeding expectations. So this has been consistent throughout since I think we started these things. RJ, right? The Arrow being in the green has been consistent since we started doing the dashboards.
Correct. It's been, our revenues have come in strong to support what services we want to provide.
If you want to see the picture, it's going to be on the dashboard. If you want, we can also make you a hand copy. All right. Any other questions for the city administrator report or RJ? Not hearing any action items, Shane?
I'd like to bring up something if we can before we get into that. Under action item A2, we have approved October 15, 2019 vouchers in the amount of $880,000. You look on the last page, line item 4115 is Winter Glow Spectacular, $5,000 down payment for Winter Glow. And yet we're not voting on that until general business B2. To me, it seems like it's inappropriate. So house cleaning or moves, whatever it needs to be, I think it needs to be done now before we move forward.
Can we make a motion to remove that and vote on that separately afterwards? Okay. Yes.
Depending on what you want to do, you can. If you want to move the Winter Glow Spectacular, you could move it up before you do the vouchers. Just make a motion to move that on the agenda.
I make that motion.
Second.
Second, further discussion. Not hearing any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. The second thing I wanted to bring up was this. I am not comfortable having $5,000 down payment for Winter Glow on our check register when we haven't even voted on it yet or have our discussion. I'm uncomfortable with that. It might have been done to maybe speed up the process because of time, but for me it's going to be process. There's a process here. And I'm uncomfortable that we would vote on this budget, that we have something in there for approval in the check register that it's not here.
Okay. So,
what we have right now is action items. Shane, would you like to move Winter Glow up?
Yeah, I'll do that after the
minutes.
Yep.
At the minutes, okay?
Yep.
So
I approve September 24th, 2019 and October 1st, 2019 City Council minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion. Not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
I move to approve general business number 2 to approve the Winter Glow Spectacular event for $10,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Not hearing any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I move consent agenda number 2 to approve October 15th, 2019 vouchers in the amount of $880,509.58.
Second.
Further discussion.
Yes. Once again, I want to reiterate, I'm not comfortable about that, and I would like to hear what council's comments or opinion is on that. Do we actually have things on our check register before we even have discussed them or voted on them. That's
I have no problem with this. It's came up from staff. It needs to be acted on quickly to get these things in place. And to me, I'm glad it was caught so we could vote on it at an appropriate time later tonight. Seems like it's going to help staff move forward in an appropriate manner. So I understand it. Glad it was caught. I guess it would be nice if it's something that hasn't been voted on, if staff could bring it to our attention first, maybe rather than catch it.
Any other council comments?
No problem.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if we could maintain the integrity of our agendas and that we work within the boundaries of what we know is coming up before us. Again, this is just, a small hiccup, but it's getting the cart before the horse. Also, with regards to the payment agenda, the emergency expense of $12,000, we had no knowledge, A, that it was an emergency expense, B, that the money was spent. Okay? I'm sure it's an emergency in the eyes of the beholders, but waiting until a meeting to get it clear with us or, getting our input is something that we still need to adhere to. Right? I appreciate the fact that it may have been an emergency. However, it wasn't that big of an emergency, okay, unless there's more to the story that I'm not aware of. So I would appreciate it if this doesn't happen again, okay, until we had the opportunity to be notified as a board that there's a problem. Thank you.
I think that the two actions were set to the action of the same meeting, one 35 seconds before the other does not upset me in the circumstance. I know procedurally, if the winter glow spectacular, for example, would have been not voted in procedurally, that check would have been struck. So, thanks.
I'm comfortable with that.
Further discussion, not hearing any. We have a motion on the floor for the AA 509. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There we go.
I move general business number 1 to approve Trailhead Master Plan Professional Services Agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. The only thing I want to make sure is that the first class air traffic or airplane tickets taken out of the thing. So I'm sure.
Do we need to make a motion on it?
Those were, I don't have it in front of me, but Mayor, what you're talking about, I think the reimbursement expenses were, the way the language is written is excluded. So those items were the excluded reimbursable expenses. So when it said first class, I believe it was excludable.
Underneath the contract, that they would charge us for that. That's what I read.
Here to the very last page.
Right, so I think what they're talking about is the reimbursable expenses.
It says excluded.
Excluded in our compensation, such as those are the particular things that are not a part of the reimbursable expenses. But
I think you get reimbursed.
The very first word says excluded.
I thought that those expenses were not already covered in their contract.
right, so I mean their contract is based upon what what this amount is, and then to the extent of what reimbursable expenses would be, and they're saying their reimbursable expenses under this category are excluded in our compensation are these items for it. So to the extent you want to move it out, I have no problem with that. I'm just from the standpoint of what their reimbursable expenses may not include. So that's
Martin, we just get clarification on it.
yeah. And I don't know, Lisa, have you had any conversation about the reimbursable expenses at all with Andy?
I have not, but I would disagree. I believe that what it's saying is that the compensation that's listed above does not include standard expenditures times 1.5% made by us specifically for the project, such as first class air travel. So they are saying that yes, and so I think that the mayor is correct that he should be tossing this out.
Yeah, because I think
Right, what they're saying is that they didn't include that.
But they
Just
want
gotta
to
get
be
clarification.
reimbursed.
Right.
Yeah, so they do
They
want
could charge us
reimbursement,
more.
we're not gonna reimburse them at the
Correct.
flat rates.
Either way.
So anyway, so.
You want to be an attorney, Lisa?
So, and obviously, as far as motion, you'll have to have a separate motion to move that portion out of the reimbursable expenses under the contract.
I'll do that. I move to remove, under reimbursable expenses on page 15, first class air travel.
Second.
Second, further discussion, not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Now you gotta move, now you gotta approve the contract.
To approve the Trailhead Master Plan Commission Service Agreement. Further discussion? Not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
I move general business number 3 to authorize Mayor Peterson to sign the labor union agreement that amends Article 18.
Second,
Second, discussion?
assuming the union's okay with the changes?
They looked at the draft after you, we will send it to them after you're ready to vote.
Just a quick update, I did get today, they did send me back, so they signed off on it.
So we have agreement from them. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further discussion, not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
I move general business number 4 to confirm Mayor Peterson's appointment of Emma Horton as student commissioner for the Parks and Rec Commission.
Second.
Bless you.
Further discussion, not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're at public hearings. That's not bad. 9 o'clock? At 9 o'clock, so the public hearing, the City of Liberty Lakes proposed 2020 budget. So this is an opportunity to make comments on the budget. I know you just got it tonight. Somebody haven't got away to the book. We want the public comment. And this might be an opportunity for you to address some of the things you should think that should be in our community. So it doesn't have to be in the budget, it has to do something on your mind. We should come. Something that could get out there, hard underneath the freeway, I'm not sure. Okay. It's open at 9:01. No comments? It's going to be closed at 9:02. That's one of my better budget meetings, I'm telling you. City of Liberty Lakes Annual Code and Comprehensive Plan Amendments is a public hearing. So it's open at 9:02. Lisa, I'll let you correct the frame.
Mayor, council members, again, you have heard all of these before, so I'm going to be very brief. We do have 10 different amendments. My recommendation to you is that you allow me to just very quickly introduce them and one at a time have the public come up and testify on each one individually. I think it makes it easier for the public. So, kind of following that, the first case before you is regarding the increasing maximum lot size for single-family homes in the R1 zone. Increasing, right now our maximum lot coverage is 40%, and the applicant, Bluestone, has proposed to increase the maximum lot coverage to 60%. And this was recommended to be denied by the Planning Commission by a vote of 5-2. And you do have their findings, conclusions, and recommendations in your packet, which does include their deliberations on that. And so that I suggest you open it up for public comment.
Okay. So this is opened on amendments to the City Development Code 10-2B-7 lot area, right? Everyone's like to. It's open at 9:03, right?
Is it 9:02?
9:02.
Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Kevin Snidemiller. I'm here representing the applicant, Greenstone. I presented at the workshop. I think most of you were there. Again, our purpose in bringing this forward is as demographics change and we see a shift to a desire for more rancher-style homes. We have been running into an issue where some of our floor plans exceed the 40% lot coverage. And it's really surrounding one specific issue, and that's how the lot coverage is calculated. So a covered back patio is included in that lot coverage. And very often with our ranchers, that may be the one single item that kicks it over the 40%. Sometimes it's the floor plan itself. It can be a third-car garage that might be added by the home buyer. Again, as I stated during the workshop, the protection that is in place are these setbacks. So in the R1 zone in the municipal code, it's 5 foot on each side yard, 10 feet in the front yard, and 15 feet in the backyard. In no form or matter can we encroach into those setbacks with the items that I mentioned. We can build a 2-story home with 40% more square footage on a lot and not exceed the 40% lot coverage because we're going vertical. We can still go to 5 foot setback on each of the side yards, be 10 feet from back of lot, and be 15 feet from the back lot line. That 2-story home is going to have much more mass. It's going to be much more evident than a rancher. But yet, when we go to try to build a rancher and a home buyer maybe says, I'd like to have a covered patio, and we say, well, on that specific lot, it doesn't work because we're exceeding the 40-foot lot coverage. Again, as I stated during the workshop, we don't believe this will impact the streetscape at all. We have a different lot coverage in the River District specific area plan. We're building the same type of home. The streetscape looks very identical. You wouldn't see the difference if you went down a street in River District or Rocky Hill or somewhere else in Liberty Lake and we put the same lineup of homes. But again, we may not be able to allow a back covered patio or possibly a 3rd-car garage or both. So it really comes down to a change in demographics that we're seeing, the desire for more rancher-style homes. We believe it actually improves the streetscape when you add in more of a variety of product type into that streetscape. Certainly, this code will apply to the entire city if it's adopted, this code amendment's adopted. So somebody could come in and want to do a remodel and they would be allowed the higher lot coverage. What I kind of find interesting is in the R1 zone, we could go and build cluster style homes, currently allowed, and we could do a lot coverage of 60%. We could also do that with multifamily homes in the R1 zone and go to 60%. But yet with single family detached homes, we're limited to 40%. There's really no magic to the 60% number. We looked at our floor plan and what we felt was a number that kind of covered all of them. As an example, on a 50-foot wide lot, we can't get to 60% lot coverage. We can get to about 55% by the time you take out the required setbacks. So maybe we chose a number that's slightly too high, but we just simply looked at what our lineup of floor plans and said this kind of alleviates us having to come back to staff and saying, oh, we've got one that's over by 1% or 2%. Again, 40% is very restricted. The R2 zone, which is intended to be somewhat higher density, has a 50% lot coverage. So, and I did during my planning commission comments suggested that maybe the two should align. That if R1 was approved to go to 60, then R2 should go to 60. So with that, it's kind of a late evening, so I won't add any more comments. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Lisa? Any other comments on this? I guess that would be the other question.
Are we going to vote individually
That was my question.
Can I ask a public hearing?
This is just a public hearing, correct?
Strictly public.
Okay, very good.
So they want to cover the issue one by one.
Okay, very good.
Just a quick comment on that, because being in the real estate industry and working with Kevin from some projects, I just want to make sure that the council considers the fact that with 10,000 people turning 62 a day in our country, it's going to happen for the next 20 years. Homes are changing. I work with primarily seniors. Two-story houses don't do us any good. So I think we really need to consider changes that are going to affect, to be able to have that demographic taken care of in our neighborhoods. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Sir, can you have your name, please?
Oh, sorry. I'm Tim Olson.
Thanks.
I live in the River District.
Other comments? Not hearing any, we'll close that portion of the meeting on that item.
So the next 9 are really all housekeeping, so I'll try and be very quick on them. But as I said, we need to pause and make certain that people want to cover. So the second comp plan amendment had to do with changes to our comprehensive plan maps. There's 5 different maps that are changed due to the boundary with the annexation for the property that's now being developed as Ridgeline High School. One is the city boundary map, one is the cultural landmarks, and this is the only one that has any changes other than the boundary. And in this particular case, we also added Orchard Park, and we added the junior high and the new junior high and the new high school. The rest of them, again, the comprehensive plan land use map, just a change in the boundary. The land use for that annexed property was part of your annexation ordinance. City annexed areas, and that was going too far ahead. So, again, if there's any public comment on these.
The change of the maps?
The changing of the maps.
Changing of the maps. Any other comments on that? Not hearing, we'll go forward, Lisa.
The next one is changing, the zoning map is actually embedded in a section of the development code. And this comp plan amendment actually replaces the old zoning map with the new zoning map that again includes the property that was recently annexed and zoned P for the new school, or the new high school. Again, housekeeping.
Okay.
Comments?
Any comments on that? Moving forward? Keep going.
The next one is the flood damage prevention ordinance.
This is not a picture of Liberty Lake.
Thank goodness. So
it's a rancher, though.
Again, really the value of our adopting this ordinance is the fact that it allows us to qualify for not only the National Flood Insurance program, which is so any of our residents can take advantage of that, but also it makes us eligible for FEMA disaster relief funds. So this is kind of the last step to actually be able to participate in that program. And what's important here is that these are the only 2 areas in the city that we actually have floodplains. One is Trailhead Golf Course, but it does extend a little bit. It does include one parcel that's owned by Meadowwood Homeowners Association. The other one up here on the river, there's a little bitty piece that kind of juts into the city. But this is in River Crossings common open space along the riverfront. So again, neither of those privately owned properties can actually ever be developed. So the impact is very small to property owners, but it's huge to our residents. So and again, comments from the public?
Is there any comments from the public? I know, isn't there one person that helped bring this forward to our attention?
There is indeed.
Don't you want to make a comment?
I just say hallelujah.
Thanks, Tracy.
The next one is code cleanup as it relates to the correction to notice requirements for type 2. As you will recall, everywhere else in the code we changed the appeal procedure for quasi-judicial. So if a decision is made, Once the decision is made by the hearing examiner, if it's to be appealed, it's appealed to the Spokane Superior Court. This is one vestige of the old ordinance that used to have it come back to City Council. And it's inconsistent with the rest of the code. It's also inconsistent in this particular instance. Elsewhere in the code, it has different requirements also. So, again, clean up.
Comments from the public?
Okay.
Did you put DT's Hallelujah in the minutes?
Yeah. Maybe the little pale one.
The next one is dealing with adult family homes, and that's basically those units that are dealing with less than 6 people and elderly people in a residential setting. It's state law says we must treat it as a single-family residence, and it must be an outright allowed use in all residential or mixed-use zones. Basically, in any zone that allows residential, this has to be allowed also. And so this is amendments both to our definition section and also to our zoning matrix to bring our code into compliance with state law. Comments?
Hello, I'm Holly Woodruff, North Fairway Road. I've worked in community mental health for several years in Indiana, and we had similar homes to this called AFA homes, alternative families for adults. A lot of times when these are approved, you get the NIMBY effect, not in my backyard. Everybody likes them, likes the idea of it. I can tell you our AFA homes in Indiana were a pleasure to work with. The residents were outstanding. They were persons who had severe mental illness and also developmental delays. Sometimes they also had physical challenges. So they loved being in the homes. They loved that family effect. So I really do support this. I think if by law we have to have it anyhow, I just want to say, don't worry about it, because typically these are great places, and the residents and the families that care for the residents are just wonderful people. Thank you.
Other comments? Not here, Vaughn.
The next one is addressing changeable word signs in the basically our sign code. We made some changes back in 2017 to allow for these reader board signs on public on P-zone property. The intent, as expressed in the legislative or the agenda bill, was to make it available for all public properties. So this was something that was Katie issued a director's interpretation back in May of last year to allow for this to occur at the Selkirk Middle School. And so this is just, again, once the director's interpretation has been made, it carries the force of law until we get around to updating the ordinance. So we are at this point updating the ordinance and unless you choose otherwise. But again, this is a housekeeping. It's our responsibility to bring it forward to you to ask if you want to change it. So that's that. And I'm gonna any public comments?
I would probably make one. In fact, is this talking about this change in the sign code that we could do for businesses in our
So this is
like in a mixed use?
This is very narrow. This is a very narrow. This is changing the definition of when you're allowed to use the electronic boards for public properties, and it's based on an interpretation. To do something broader, I would respectfully recommend that number one, it would have to go through the planning commission, and number two, that it probably needs to be done within the context of a broader look at sign code.
Okay.
If I could add something too, and I appreciate the comment, the desire by council to recognize our businesses, because we all want our businesses to be successful and thrive. On the public policy side, it is very awkward for a public agency to advertise private businesses on our public signs. I'll do some research and bring back some information next time I'm able to, but it would be very difficult for us to advertise, welcome to Liberty Lake, use our local businesses. Something very generic would be fine, but to take a specific business and put it on our message board, I'm concerned that there's a conflict. So let's do some research.
I actually can answer that question right now. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. That actually would be considered off-premise advertising, and it's actually specifically prohibited by the current sign code.
So I don't want to dwell on it, but I know how, as much as we want to welcome all of our businesses, it would have to be in a very generic sense, as opposed to specifics.
So I can certainly see a challenge that, James' suggestions came forward and made, I think it was a pretty good suggestion with the idea of new businesses coming in, they will put on the sign, but I understand the possibility we're not be able to do that. But then I would also question, how are we able to put the hub on there? They are a business.
So this is our criteria for
They're a business.
Yeah, so it actually it's a nonprofit, 501c3, and it's served for Liberty Lake community. So when we get requests from Toastmasters, from Central Valley, from the Hub, from the Master Gardeners, we always use this criteria. They have to be a nonprofit, and they have to be something connected to Liberty Lake. That's the criteria that we use. So we do receive requests to put things up on the board, but it has to meet those two kind of general criteria.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And if I may just one more, this did come up at the Planning Commission as we were talking about a landscape code. And one of the things that we suggested was that, as it relates to sign code, one of the things that we suggested is that possibly after the first of the year, that we do a joint Planning Commission and City Council meeting to talk about what the priorities might be for some of our code amendments, which might include signage and parking, which are things that I've heard from this body.
Okay.
So, sorry for the tangent. Chain link fence, same director's interpretation. River District doesn't allow chain link fences except under very specific circumstances, and this basically just changes it to say chain link fence material with green or vinyl coating shall be permitted when it's associated with tennis courts, ball fields, or other sports facilities located on publicly owned or maintained properties. So that's simple.
Any comments?
Keep it going.
Lisa, when this has come up in the Planning Commission, it's come up in the past, why wouldn't we have something that's uniform throughout the whole city?
This is a development regulation that is specific to the River District. It's part of the River District SAP, and the River District SAP actually created their own zoning regulations. I'm going to say that one of the things that we'll be looking at possibly for the 2020 code cycle is to actually basically consolidate the development code so that we have bring the River District zoning into the rest of the development code, which is absolutely easy thing to do, but that's it's clean. Not saying that we have it, the SAP is an overlay zone, and so we can have those regulations incorporated into our development regulations specific to the River District and the River District zones. So that's something we'll talk about in terms of just to kind of not have it as a separate standing document at some point, but the regulations related to design standards, they have different design standards. In the River District, they have the zoning is different, etc. They have special zones that are different from the zoning in the rest of the city.
And I know at the same time that's where it was generated from the discussion, was the percentage. If it's 40%, like just been talking about 40%, 50%, trying to raise it to 60%.
But, and there's the point that I would raise is that in the SAP, it also had a much higher percentage of common open space. So some of those regulations are in balance with some of the other things that they're providing in the River District related to. Gotcha. So it's, you have to kind of look at it as a whole.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Sure.
Other comments?
I have one question. Going back to the fencing, do you feel that this is kind of self-serving?
I don't, because actually, if you look at it, it does it's prohibited in the RDR except when part of fencing for parks, open space, or sports facilities in private and public parks. So that's already part of it. They just didn't envision at the time that in the RDC zone that the schools weren't allowed. They changed the code to allow the schools, but didn't change this regulation that would then, well, with the schools come fields, and how can you prohibit chain link fences around sports fields? Because yes, you can require them to be coated and whatnot, but you don't want sided screen fence, you don't want vinyl, you want, from a safety perspective, you want to be able to see, you want the visibility, but you also need to separate the sports fields from, it protects spectators as well as vehicles, etc. Anyhow, the intent was clearly, the intent was clearly demonstrated in how it dealt with it in the residential part of the zone. So when they opened up RDC to schools, which hadn't originally been contemplated, it only made sense that on those publicly owned properties that these could, and they're specifically associated with sports fields.
Okay. Any public comment?
So this one is dealing with additional extensions for phase subdivisions, and we've talked about this before also. As it stands right now, our code, preliminary plat approvals expire after 5 years, but there's an opportunity for 1 3-year extension. And technically, as it's worded, a narrow reading of it would suggest that phase subdivisions are not even permitted even 1 extension. But we're proposing that to change the code to allow for additional extensions, specifically for phase subdivisions, provided that the prior in the prior extension, at least one phase was actually final platted. So it can't be something that's just completely stalled out. It's something that's making progress but maybe slowing down. One of the thoughts behind this is an elegant way to deal with potential economic downturns. We do have a number of phased subdivisions. Some of them are relatively large, and it may not be realistic to expect them to build out in 5 years. And again, possibly not even 8 years with an economic downturn. So that's the intent.
Any public comment?
And so the last one has to do with, this is truly a code cleanup, and I'm sorry for the number of pages. This is totally embedded in the development code.
So just think of the days when we used to get paper packets.
And basically, so everywhere throughout the code where it has PC&D director, there's actually 3 or 4 different variations thereof, so we're not even internally consistent with it. We're changing that to zoning administrator, and we're defining that as the director of planning and engineering and or her designee. So that's in the zone, and then we're just changing it to zoning administrator. When it refers to the department, we just refer to it as the city, because nobody cares whether it's planning and engineering that does something or whether it's operations and maintenance. Outside of the city, the public looks at it as the city does this, the staff does this, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just cleaner, it allows for, as organizations kind of evolve over time, it's a cleanup thing. And there are some very specific authorities that are vested in terms of interpreting the code and certain interpretations, administrative decisions, those sorts of things, that it's important that we be clear as to who that power is vested in, and who they get to appeal to.
Okay. Public comment on that? Not hearing any, I think you're done, right?
I am done.
Okay, the public hearing is closed at 9:29. First read ordinance, Ann.
City of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington, ordinance number 262. An ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, amending the City of Liberty Lake Comprehensive Plan and Development Code and the Development Code contained in the River District Specific Area Plan.
Okay. We're at Katie.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to mention that the next meeting might be before the end of October. I'll let you know as soon as the contract comes back. But the next scheduled meeting at this point is November 5th. A couple things. The ordinance, the donation ordinance, I heard that the council is asking for a first read. So we'll make those edits that we heard. We'll send it back out to you. And then we'll have the first read ordinance. If you have any changes, bring them to the council meeting and we'll make it at the time of the first read. We do have a workshop on flashing beacons. We do have your approval to purchase DIs for the winter 2019-2020. We are tentative that there'll be a task order on the corridor study and the network analysis. That's our traffic study. We're still working on the details on that. And we're also tentative to accept right-of-way on Country Vista dedication. I believe this is the dedication of Country Vista over off of Appleway. Is that correct?
Country Vista Boulevard, yes.
Okay. And then we have your request to approve the legal services that RJ mentioned. And then we have a public hearing on the 2020 budget. And then also a first read ordinance on the setting the property tax levy. Mayor, there was one other thing that didn't get mentioned tonight, and I'm just going to say it very quickly. There's been a lot of questions about some of the tree and debris that are along the Lake Road. I know you get questions at Farmers Market and on Facebook. So between our crew, the Water District, and I think Jen, is that it? We're going to be cleaning that area up. And so there was some debris that got left there probably longer than we wish they would have, and so they'll be cleaned up. And then another note is we're looking at the ditch. Nothing's been changed topographically, but people think that there is a concern of the steepness of the ditch now that you can see it. And so Scott is talking to a guardrail expert to advise us if there's a guardrail that needs to be installed. So I don't have any more information than that.
Is there any chance you can put an abbreviated version of that on the website so we can just direct people to it?
Yes.
Or Facebook or whichever.
Yes.
I think it's real important you can put on there is that the city has not dug that ditch down any deeper than it is.
It's actually rocky.
Yeah, I think why it's so obvious to individuals, I think that has been done, because it's been cleared out and you can see how deep it is, because there was so much overgrowth there. I go back to the gentleman who came into the booth 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Now we're at citizen comments. Have you talked out tonight?